The Northern Light Webcasting Network and NLWN-TV would like to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and are delighted to bring you our version of a Christmas gift for you. Tonight, we have for you classic Christmas tales from old-time radio with Fibber McGee and Molly, Jack Benny, Our Miss Brooks, Gene Shepard, and the Campbell Playhouse. In addition, we have a special guest host who, along with his many other duties, has put together all of this for you. Let's see if he's ready for us. Russell? Russell, are you there?
Hello there. I'm Russell, one of Santa's elves. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm his chief elf when it comes to making deliveries on Christmas Eve. So, you've caught us in the midst of our annual journey. Hang on tight. We're going to be flying pretty fast, and in an open-air sleigh. We sure don't want anybody falling out. We just left Reykjavik, Iceland. Since we're on the Northern Light Webcasting Network, Santa thought it would be nice to take a turn around the Northern Lights. Dasher knows the way. I arranged our in-flight entertainment tonight, and it includes about 2.5 hours of Christmas shows from the golden days of radio. After we visit the Northern Lights, Dasher will set his GPS for Brazil. So sit back and relax as we open things up with Fibber McGee and Molly and an episode from December 22nd, 1942, called Listening to Christmas Carols.
Molly! The makers of Johnson's Wax and Johnson's Self-Polishing Glow Coat present Fibber McGee and Molly, written by Don Quinn, with music by Billy Mills Orchestra, and featuring tonight a very special musical score written by Ken Darby, arranger and director of the King's Men. And the show opens with Who? Instrument like a thermometer for measuring increased activity and hustle and bustle around the house, it would certainly kick over the traces in this week before Christmas. What with shopping and cooking and tree trimming and being an air raid warden besides, there's certainly lots to be done. But in spite of how busy you are, you still want your home to look its best for the holidays. Have you ever stopped to think how useful wax is at such a time? Truth is, if your floors, furniture, and woodwork have been regularly protected with genuine Johnson's Wax, that special holiday cleaning can be done in short order. A quick dusting and polishing, a touch-up with wax where needed, and your rooms are glowing with mellow beauty, ready for the visits of your family and friends. For over 50 years, Johnson's Wax has helped brighten homes at the Christmas season. A couple of nights before Christmas, and all through the house at 79 Wistful Vista, not a creature was stirring, except Fibber McGee and Molly.
McGee, I don't like to seem repetitious, but hadn't you better get your Christmas shopping done?
Oh, Christmas shopping. Every year the same thing. Makes me sick.
Yes, I know, dearie. We go through this every year.
What do you mean?
You howl and scowl, and the day before Christmas, the spirit hits you like a baseball bat. And you do everything but grow a beard and climb down chimneys.
Oh, gee whiz. Christmas is getting too commercial. It's getting so...
Sure. We ought to have rubber stamps made for this whole conversation.
What you mean again?
Well, every year you say Christmas is getting too commercial, and every year I have to scold you for spending too much.
Who, me? I just spend what I have to get by, that's all. I go along with the mob. It ain't any beautiful Yuletide thoughts with me, baby.
Oh, go on.
No tinsel snow gets in my eyes. If I spend any dough, it's just because it's the easiest way out.
Now, listen, McGee, you're a fraud. You're a phony. Right. You're so scared somebody will find out you're sentimental, you act like a dead-end kid.
Sentimental my clavicle. The whole thing is a lot of tapioca. I wouldn't give a half-hearted hootin' hattin' sack if I never saw it. What you got there?
This is the mail that came this morning. It's mostly just Christmas cards.
Let me see him.
You wouldn't be interested. They're just the same old Christmas malarkey.
What do you mean, malarkey? Don't you realize people have gone to a lot of time and trouble to... Was there any other mail?
Just a couple of bills. Incidentally, what's this item on the Bonton bill for one mama doll, $8.50?
Mama doll?
Now, listen, don't try to look so innocent. Not that I mind your playing with dolls, if they're made out of plaster. But you certainly didn't buy this one for me, did you?
No, I bought that for the little girl across the street.
Oh, I think that's very sweet.
It was not sweet. I'm giving it to the little pest as a bribe to stay out of my life.
Oh. It's strange how much she annoys you, isn't it?
I never saw such a little nuisance. Always butting in where she ain't wanted.
I know. You hate her so much that last year you gave her a $2 Valentine. You gave her a white rabbit for Easter.
Well,
Took her to the circus twice. Spent 3 days fixing her tricycle, and you did card tricks through her bedroom window when she had the mumps.
Well, that don't mean I like her, does it?
Doesn't it?
No. That was an old Valentine that had been kicking around here for years. I gave her that rabbit because I thought it would annoy her old man. I fixed her tricycle so she could go someplace else besides around here. And I took her to the circus because they always give kids better seats than they do grown-ups, and I was taking advantage of her helpless condition to practice my card tricks. And she never caught on. Thought I was doing it all for her.
Come off it, dear. You're not fooling anybody.
I ain't trying to fool anybody. All I'm saying is that Christmas has lost its meaning. It's got so people don't...
Come in.
Hello, Mom. Hiya, Skimp.
Well, if it ain't Billy Mills, the poor man's Toscanini.
Hello, Mr. Mills.
Come on in, William, my boy. Hang your hat on a hickory limb and don't go near the piano. What's confusing with the music, kid?
Just stopped in to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Ah, Merry Christmas, blah. What's merry about it? Walk your wedgies off in the slush to find a lot of junk for a few mugs that won't appreciate it. Hanging a ton of gewgaws on a pine tree that looks better in the woods. Scratch your hands all up on a handful of holly to hang in the window so you can stick yourself in the eye with it when you look out to watch the mailman breaking his back with a sack full of silly Christmas cards. Merry Christmas, blah.
And a Happy New Year.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mills. The same to you. And don't pay any attention to McGee. You know, he goes through this act every year. He's got those don't wrap up that packet, Christmas is just a racket blues.
Ah, don't worry, Mom. I can read him like a book.
What kind of a book?
He's a mystery. A very novel character.
Fine type, too. One of the lower cases.
Somebody ought to borrow him and not bring him back.
Maybe we could arrange with the Book of the Month Club to offer him as a special premium.
Oh, cut it out. Lay off, will you? Even if the rib was as prime as you think, this is a meatless day.
Ever play the bagpipes, Alfred?
And don't call me Alfred.
Okay, Joe. Ever play the bagpipes?
I don't think he ever did, Mr. Mills. Do you think he could?
Sure. Got a head start. Big bag of wind. All he needs is a flute. Well, gotta be gone. Merry Christmas again.
Well, the same to you, Oskaloosa Sousa. What's all the rush?
Oh, I gotta drop in to see my mother-in-law. She's AWOL.
Oh, you mean absent without leave?
No, a welder out at Lockheed.
Isn't he a wonderful band leader, McGee?
Ah, band leader, my clavicle. I think all of them are just a bunch of fakers myself. You ever see a musician looking at the leader? No. They don't know whether he's beating out a march, a polka, a waltz, or just swatting flies.
Well, then what keeps them together?
That check at the end of the week. Confidentially, one of them guys...
Oh, I wonder who that could be.
Ah, probably somebody else coming in to wish us a Merry Christmas when all they really want to see is if you ever got those new curtains for the dining room.
Well, I didn't, and the same to them. Come in.
Hi, mister.
Uh-oh. Now, this is all I needed today. Sis, why don't you take your little sled and go out on the pond in the park?
Oh, there isn't any ice on it, mister.
Yes, I know.
Hey, don't be like that. You were young once yourself, you know.
Now, I wasn't that young this long.
Be very tactful with him today, little girl. You know, his Christmas spirit is later than usual this year.
Well, doggone it, the whole thing is a very foolish arrangement.
Why, mister?
Why, the idea of having Christmas come right in the middle of the holidays. The newspaper? Right when everybody is their busiest. It's ridiculous.
Look, mister, I got business to see you about.
Oh, yeah?
Do you like to hear children sing Christmas carols?
Oh, sis, there's nothing I love more than to have a little group of childish voices stand outside my window and blast their melodious little brains. Particularly if I ain't home that night.
Oh, gee, mister, I got my whole gang outside, and they're awful anxious to sing you a Christmas carol, and I told them...
Well, I don't like to hear Christmas carols butchered by a bunch of kids. How can anybody sing good standing hip deep in a snowdrift with a muffler over their face, wondering how many fingers and toes they'll have left when they get home, if they ever do?
Oh, maybe you're still mad on account of last year. Are you, mister? Are you?
No, I'm not. That has nothing to do with it.
What's this? What happened last year that I don't know about?
Oh, nothing. She's
Well, us kids were going around singing Christmas carols.
Now, never mind, sis. That's ancient
And
history.
Mr. McGee came
Now,
out...
never mind. Give the kid a cookie, Molly. Imagine she's kind of hungry. Hey, sis?
Oh, gee, thanks, mister. Anyway, Mr. McGee came out while we were...
Sis, I told you nobody was interested. Now, let's just drop the whole subject. What kind of a cookie you want?
Any kind, thanks. And a glass of milk.
Well, I'll see if I can...
Now, listen, what happened with the Christmas carols, dear?
And Mr. McGee came running out of the house.
Now, you cut that out, sis.
And he wanted to sing with us, only when we heard him sing, we didn't want him to, and he followed us all over town. Gee, we couldn't get rid of him, and he kept trying to sing, and people threw things at us and all. It was awful. It fit just dandy. And he said, gee, kid, you're cute. How'd you like to be a princess? And she said, oh, boy, and write testimonials for cold cream. And they got married and lived happy ever after. You want to hear another one, mister? Well, once upon a time...
No. That's enough, sis. Thanks anyway. You told me at least 14 of them.
Are you sure you don't want to hear any more?
I'm positive, sis.
Okay, then get off my lap.
Well, heavenly days, McGee. What are you trying to do, crush the child?
No, she wanted to pretend I was her little boy and tell me some stories. Now I know why they call them Grimm's fairy tales. That's the grimmest half hour I ever spent in my life.
Gee, I thought it was fun.
No, you did. Well, personally, I'd rather lie down with a good book under my head and go to sleep.
Can't you two think up any more games to play?
I bet you I am want to be fun, I bet you.
What, sis?
Well, I could bring my little playmates in and we could sing you some Christmas carols. They must be pretty cold out there.
I don't want to hear any Christmas carols. Christmas carols are beautiful music. And to hear your little mob of half-pint hepcats slaughter them would ruin my day.
Oh.
The very thought of those kindergarten contraltos drives me to drink. Get me some root beer, will you, Molly?
Yeah, me too. Hey, mister, let's let's play star, shall we?
How do you play that?
Well, first you give me, maybe about $3 and change, huh?
Give you $3? Hey, what is this? First you eat 2 dozen cookies, and then you want to borrow $3. You trying to put the bite on the hand that feeds you?
Oh, gee, it's lots of fun, mister. First we post a lot of ceiling.
I don't want to buy a ceiling. We got one.
This is different, mister. Us storekeepers have got to post ceiling prices so people won't have to pay too much for stuff, and it keeps the cost of living down a reasonable level, and the prices won't go pig wild.
Hog wild.
You know your own habits best, mister. Anyway, we got to keep prices from getting out of hand for the merchandise that's getting scarce, so after the war we won't have inflation, you see.
Hey, aren't you getting a little out of your depth, sis? What do you know about economics?
Oh, my daddy told me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. We had a little heart-to-heart talk last night, you and I.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he says I'm at the age where I ought to know certain things.
Oh, yeah.
Like not paying 10 cents for a lollipop that's worth only 5 because then I'm bidding against somebody that can only pay 5 cents for a lollipop. Besides, spend an extra nickel, it ought to go toward a war bond, which will help pay for the war and give me a nest chicken afterwards.
You mean a nest egg?
By that time, it ought to be a chicken.
Well, be that as it may or may not be or not, sis, we won't play store. I got a better game.
What, mister?
Scoopy. Did you ever play Scoopy?
What on earth is Scoopy?
Oh, it's a wonderful game.
How do we play it, mister?
Well, it's like this. You run home, hide in the closet, and put your hands over your eyes and count up to 79 minutes.
Oh, and then what?
Now, by that time, we'll both be so old we'll have forgotten what we started out to play, which is the object of the whole game. Now, I'll get your hat and coat, and you...
Hello, folks. Merry Christmas. Oh, hello, little girl.
Hi, Mr. Wilcox. Hi. What is it?
I haven't got time to stop and talk. Just wanted to leave this little Christmas gift for Molly.
Well, heavenly days, Mr. Wilcox. You shouldn't have done.
Oh, it isn't very much. And don't open it before Christmas. But I think it's something you'll like.
I got one for you, too, Junior, but it ain't wrapped up yet.
Oh, that's okay, pal, anytime. Remember, Molly, don't open that package before Christmas because I want you to be surprised.
I promise, Mr. Wilcox. My, it's wrapped beautifully.
I wrapped it myself, especially for you.
Shake it, Molly, and see if it rattles.
I bet you that wouldn't be fair, I bet you.
Of course it wouldn't. I want it to be a surprise. You just put it away till Christmas.
Oh, I think I'm going to love it, Mr. Wilcox.
I know you'll love it because millions of other housewives do because it's so easy to apply and shines as it dries. Your beautiful mirror-like polish in 20 minutes or less and saves hours of housework, to say nothing of eliminating old-fashioned floor scrubbing. And boy, what it does for the looks of your kitchen linoleum is amazing. But I won't say any more. I might give you a hint. Merry Christmas, all of you.
Oh, gee. I wonder what it is.
Hey, sis, ain't it about time your mother ought to be worrying about why you don't come home?
No.
Huh? Look, I've been very patient with you today. Now, why don't you do something for me?
Okay, mister.
Fine. Now, come back maybe tomorrow, and I'll have a surprise for you.
I got a surprise for you, too, mister. I got some little friends outside here waiting to sing your Christmas.
Doggone it. How many times I got to tell you I don't like kids singing Christmas carols? I don't want to hear any.
I'll get it, dearie.
Well, if it's this little girl's mother, Molly, tell her yes. She'll be right home, I hope.
79 Wistful Vista, Molly McGee speaking. Long distance. Yes, I'll hold the phone. Yes, Oh, is that you, Myrtle?
Hey. That's no fair.
How's every little thing, Myrtle?
Well, what?
It is, huh? Who, Myrtle? Your brother?
I hope it ain't funny.
Went fishing through the ice, huh? Well, isn't he the lucky one?
What'd he get, Molly?
The cherry out of his planter's punch. What'd you say, Myrtle? Yes, I'm ready. Hello? Well, for goodness sake, you're the last person in the world. What? Yes, he's fine.
Who is it? Who's
Oh, yes, indeed. We'd love to see you. Yes, do. And plan on having dinner with us.
Hey, wait a minute.
Oh, we'll be delighted. Well, thanks for calling, and we'll be expecting you next week. Goodbye, Mr. Gildersleeve.
Gildersleeve?
I bet you I remember him, I bet you. He's the man who always laughs with his stomach.
Yeah. Speaking in the vernacular, we call that a belly.
McGee. Never mind. Mr. Gildersleeve says he's coming to visit us next week, and he'll be here for dinner.
Boy, ain't it wonderful and strange what some guys will do to get the extra pat of butter these days. But I'll be kind of glad to see the old Flint at that.
Oh, dear. Come in.
Oh, gee, it's Mrs. Uppington. Hi, Miss Uppington.
Well, hello, little girl. And good afternoon, Mrs. McGee. And Miss McGee.
Hello, Abigail.
Hi, Uppy. Won't you wiggle out of the minx and drape the frame on an orange crate for a spell?
don't you know, Mr. McGee, I just dropped by to wish you both a very, very Merry Christmas.
Well, thank you, Abigail. The same to you. And take that sour look off your face, McGee.
Well, doggone it,
I guess he doesn't like Christmas very much, Miss Uppington.
Well, is it my fault that Christmas ain't what it used to be? It's too commercial. My gosh.
Oh, McGee. He doesn't mean a word of it, Abigail. He's just an old softy who's afraid somebody will find out about it.
I never know such a thing.
You are too, I betcha. You gave me $10 on account there's some little orphans in school who won't have any...
You keep out of this, sis.
Okay.
You don't have to hurry away, do you, Abigail? I was just going to make a pot of tea.
Oh, no, I can't stay, my dear. You know, I still have 2 days' work as Santa Claus at 14th and Oak Street. Oh, now it's been such fun, really. Quite an experience.
That costume and the beard really fools them, eh, Effie?
Oh, they really do, Mr. McGee. I've been a Santa Claus for 2 weeks now, and I've been given 23 cigars, 7 hot tips on the races, and business cards from 2 coffee leggers. Oh, well, it's been a rich experience. I feel younger every day. And as Mr. McGee will probably say after I leave, no one can stand it better than I. Well, Merry Christmas, all.
Going to say that, mister?
No, and she might have given me a handful of them cigars people have been giving her.
Oh, McGee, there's plenty of cigars in your humidor.
Okay, but if she wasn't so stingy, she might have...
Say, why won't he let me and my friends sing a Christmas carol? Why won't he, Miss McGee?
Well, frankly, dearie, he'd love it. But he knows himself too well. When he hears those Christmas songs, he goes all mushy inside. Now, look, you pretend he's hurt your feelings and make believe you're going home.
Hey, I hope somebody gives me a box of cigars for Christmas because I only... Hey, what goes on here? What are you two whispering about?
She says I better go home, mister.
Huh?
She says you're mad at me because I want to have the kids sing a Christmas carol for me.
Oh, now, I ain't mad exactly, sis.
I
I
bet
just...
you are, I betcha.
Well...
And, gee, the kids have been out there in that cold all afternoon on account of the...
Now, none of that, sis. Now, cut it out. The only reason I didn't want them to sing is well, gee whiz.
Oh, it's okay, mister. I know how you feel. Thanks for the cookies and thanks...
Hey, don't rush away like this, sis. My gosh. I'll listen to your old Christmas carol if it means that much.
No.
I just thought...
No, you don't like them.
I do, too, like them. I only
You
thought...
don't either like them.
I do, too.
You don't?
I do so.
No.
Yes.
No.
Now, look, sis. Here. Take my handkerchief and
Thank
wipe your
you.
nose.
Thanks.
Now bring in your half-pint Glee Club and let them do their worst, which I imagine is pretty bad.
Oh, they're not bad. They're wonderful.
Okay, so they're terrific. Bring them in.
Hi. Hey, Kenny, Granny, Johnny, Buddy, come on in.
My. Well, what handsome little fellas. Hello, boys.
Hello, Mrs. McGee.
What you going to give us, kid?
The night before Christmas. And, gee, we rehearsed it like 60. Are you ready, kid?
No, I'm ready, sis. No, wait a minute. Hey, Molly.
What's the matter, McGee?
Here. Take my money and my watch. You know me. Every time I hear these things, I want to give away everything I own.
Before Christmas and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hope that St. Nicholas
traveled along and arose such a clatter. I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, threw open the sash. Then, what to my wondering, I should appear but a miniature sleigh and a tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick that I knew right away that it must be St. Nick. All bundled in fur from his head to his foot, old Santa was covered with ashes and soot. I drew in my head and was turning around, and down the chimney he came with a bow.
His eyes, how they twinkle. His dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses. His nose like a cherry. His dry little mouth was drawn up like a bow. And the beard on his chin was as white as the snow.
The stump of a little old pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke went around and around and around his head like a wreath. He was so chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, that I laughed and I laughed and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. He had a broad face, oh, 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 and a little round belly, oh, 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 that shook when he laughed, oh, 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 like a bowl full of jelly. Oh, oh, he gave me a wink of his eye and a twist of his head, a chuckle and a smile I knew all the while I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings,
Oh, boy.
and turned with a jerk, and laying a finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the sound of a pistol. But I heard him exclaim, and he cried, Merry Christmas to all, and to all, good night.
Oh, is it gone?
Is the night after Christmas, I'm all through the house. Not a creature is stirring, not even a mouse. The presents are scattered and broken, I fear, and St. Nicholas won't come again for a year. The children are nestled all warm in their wee little beds, while memories of sugar plums dance in their wee little heads. Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap are settled at last for a
Ladies and gentlemen, even while we wish you a Merry Christmas, we can't help thinking that in many parts of the world, the spirit of goodwill toward men has been made a shame and a mockery. But there'll be other Christmases. And to our men in uniform all over the world, we send our prayers and our thanks for what they are doing to restore faith and decency to our world. To them we say thank you and God bless you.
And we hope and pray that when next Christmas comes, there will really be peace on earth.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Well, it looks like McGee finally found his Christmas spirit. I remember back in 1942 when I had to make a last-minute change in our stop list, so we would stop at 79 Wistful Vista, so we could deliver to McGee. Speaking of deliveries, we're coming in for a landing on an island just off the east coast of Brazil. There we will find a city called Vila dos Remedios. We need to stop for some deliveries. There's only 3,000 people living here, but we can't forget about them. So, while Santa and I attend to our business, we have another story for you, and it's a story with one of the cheapest people I've ever met, and his name is not Ebenezer Scrooge. That's coming up right after this message.
Join us at NLWN-TV and the Northern Light Webcasting Network for exciting high school girls basketball. Our next game will be on January 3rd when the Viking girls travel to Fall Creek to take on the Fall Creek Crickets. Live coverage on the Northern Light Webcasting Network audio service and on NLWN-TV begins with the Viking pre-game at 7:10 p.m. That's right, Colfax Viking girls basketball on Monday, January 3rd on the Northern Light Webcasting Network and NLWN-TV.
I'm always amazed at how spry Santa is at his age. We're done in Vila dos Remedios and off to our next stop. Like I said before the break, this is a program with one of the cheapest people not named Ebenezer Scrooge. The Jack Benny program, starring Jack Benny, is a radio TV comedy series that ran for more than 3 decades and is generally regarded as a high watermark in 20th century American comedy. He played one role throughout his radio and television careers, a caricature of himself as a minimally talented musician and penny pincher who was the butt of all the jokes. Jack Benny first appeared on radio as a guest of Ed Sullivan in March 1932. He was then given his own show later that year, with Canada Dry Ginger Ale as a sponsor, the Canada Dry Ginger Ale program, beginning May 2, 1932 on the NBC Blue Network and continuing there for 6 months until October 26, then moving the show to CBS on October 30. Benny stayed on CBS until January 26, 1933. Arriving at NBC on March 3, Benny did the Chevrolet program until April 1, 1934. He continued with the General Tire Review for the rest of that season, and in the fall of 1934, the General Foods as the Jell-O program starring Jack Benny, and when sales of Jell-O were affected by sugar rationing during World War II, the Grape Nuts Flakes program starring Jack Benny. On October 1, 1944, the show became the Lucky Strike program starring Jack Benny, when American Tobacco's Lucky Strike cigarettes took over as his radio sponsor, through the mid-1950s. By that time, the practice of using the sponsor's name as the title began to fade. The show returned to CBS on January 2, 1949, as part of CBS President William S. Paley's raid of NBC talent in 1948 and 49. There it stayed for the remainder of its radio run, which ended on May 22, 1955. CBS aired repeats of previous 1953 through 55 radio episodes from 1956 to 1958 as the Best of Benny for State Farm Insurance, which later sponsored his television program from 1960 through 1965. In this episode, Mary and Jack are trimming the Christmas tree before the party, but Jack keeps getting shocked by the Christmas lights. A policeman arrives to see Jack about a complaint against him from an incident at a department store. After the gang arrives for the party, Jack gives a toast to all the servicemen fighting overseas. This was an Armed Forces radio service program from December 24, 1944. The Jack Benny program and trimming the Christmas tree.
The Jack Benny Program, starring Jack Benny, with Mary Livingston, Phil Harris, Rochester, Larry Stevens, and yours truly, Don Wilson. "'Tis the night before Christmas, and at Jack Benny's house, there are presents for all, even cheese for the mouse. Jack is up on a chair, then he's down on his knee, but you have to do that when you're trimming a tree.
Well, we're all through, Mary. Gee, it was nice of you to come over and help me trim the tree.
Well, if I didn't, you'd never get it done. Say, Jack, shall I put the snow around the bottom now?
Not yet. I want to see if the lights are working. I'll hold up the bulbs, and when I say ready, you plug it in.
Okay. Ready?
Ready. Pull it out! Pull it out! Pull it out! My goodness.
Oh, Jack, why did you make me shut it off? Those lights were so pretty, especially those two blue ones that kept flashing on and off.
Those were my eyes. I must have been holding on to a bare wire.
Well, it's your own fault. Every time you fool around with electricity, something goes wrong.
It does not. I know plenty about electricity.
Oh, sure. Remember what happened 2 years ago when you fixed your doorbell?
What happened?
I pushed the button and it burned down Crosby's house.
Oh, stop exaggerating. Anyway, hand me that roll of tape. Give me that tape. I'll fix this bare wire right now.
Here you are.
Thanks. Comes to electricity, I know what I'm doing. See, when you see a bare wire, you just tape it up like this. And that way it's insulated against outside elements. There, that ought to be enough tape. All right, Mary, plug it in.
Okay.
Pull it out! Pull it out! Pull it out! For heaven's sake.
What happened, Jack?
I taped my finger to the wire. That's what happened.
Oh, gee. And that time it was even prettier than before.
What do you mean?
Your nose lit up, too.
It did not. Let's get this tree finished before the gang gets here.
But, Jack, what about the lights?
We'll have to let that go until later. Now, hand me one of those...
Oh, Mr. Benny.
What is it, Rochester?
I baked that cake like you told me to.
Good. Did you have enough whipped cream to spell out Merry Christmas on top?
Yeah. Say, boss, how many R's in Mary?
2.
Oh.
So you better add one.
Add one? I better cross one out. I got 3.
Well, leave it. It's better than ruining the cake.
Okay.
Oh, Rochester, will you please take these Christmas tree lights and fix them?
Fix them?
Yes.
I ain't fooling around with electricity.
Well, what are you afraid of?
I ain't going to get hit by nothing I can't hit back.
Oh, Rochester. Imagine being afraid of electricity. Suppose Robert Fulton was afraid of electricity. He never would have invented the electric light. Would he?
Jack, you're thinking of Thomas Edison.
Edison? Well, then what did Robert Fulton do?
He said, don't give up the ship.
That was John Paul Jones. Now, let's not start that again. Now, Rochester, please fix these lights, will you?
Okay. Let's see. Now, in electricity, there's the electrons and the electrodes. Then there's the positive and the negative. But I ain't positive which one is negative. Then there's the atoms. Now, the atoms are supposed to go from the positive to the negative, or maybe they go from the electrons to the electrodes. Then again, maybe they go from Natchez to Mobile.
Rochester.
Now, as long as these atoms keep passing each other, everything is all right.
Yeah.
But when they meet halfway and start fighting, they're going to turn on anybody who tries to butt in.
Rochester, I'm not interested in the scientific details. I just want you to fix those lights. And I promise you, while you're holding the wires, no one in this room will turn on the switch.
I know, boss. While I'm holding the wire, you ain't going to turn on the switch, and Miss Livingston ain't going to turn on the switch.
Of course not.
But way up there at Boulder Dam, there's a little man sitting in a room with thousands of wires around him.
What?
How do I know he ain't going to do something just to break the monotony?
Oh, all right. I'll fix it myself. Go back in the kitchen. Come in.
I'm looking for Mr. Benny. Mr. Jack Benny.
Me?
Yes.
But you're a policeman.
Well, now, what do you know? This blue uniform has given me away again.
But, officer. Mary, say something.
But, officer.
Is that all you can say?
That's all you said.
Now, officer.
Mr. Benny, I hate to be doing this to you on Christmas Eve, but I have a complaint about you disturbing the peace last week at Moore's department store.
At Moore's department? Oh, that! Well, officer, that wasn't my fault at all. You see, first I had trouble with some crazy floor walker who kept hollering, "Stop breathing on my carnation." And then...
A little slower, please. I'm writing it down.
Yes, sir.
How many R's in carnation?
1. Then. And then some silly guy kept following me around, asking me what I thought I ought to buy his wife for Christmas. Now, I didn't mind it the first time or the second time, but he kept hounding me. And just before the real trouble started, I was standing by the perfume counter when all of us, I was trying to buy some perfume for my sister Flora.
Here's your change, sir.
Thank you. Come on, Mary. Let's get over
I beg your pardon, mister.
Oh, it's you again.
What do you think I ought to buy my wife for Christmas?
I told you before, I don't know what you should buy your wife for Christmas. Figure it out yourself.
Figure it out yourself, he says. Figure it out yourself. Fine Christmas, Ferret.
Look, I don't care what you buy your wife for Christmas. Don't buy her anything.
Don't buy her anything? We've been married for 12 years. What are you trying to do, break us up?
Look, I don't know your wife. I've never seen your wife.
What's going on here? What's the trouble? That man's been caught stealing somebody's wife.
What?
At your age, you gray-haired wolf.
Now, wait a minute.
One time, let me through. What's going on here?
Oh, it's you, my little Cupie with the droopy toopy.
Now, cut that out and don't blame me for this because it's...
Stop breathing on my carnation.
I'll breathe on it as much as I like.
Stand up, everybody. The man is mad.
You're darn right I'm mad, and this is all your fault. Mister asked me to buy your wife for Christmas. For all I care, you can buy her a dog collar.
What size?
What size? There you are, folks. See what a crazy guy is, and you blame me. Why, it's not my fault. I'm not the type that would start trouble. I'm a peaceful home...
Shut up!
Oh, come on, Mary. Let's get out of here. And that's exactly what happened, officer. Believe me.
By golly, it's amazing. It sounds like something you'd hear on the radio.
Yeah.
Well, I'm convinced it wasn't your fault, and I'm going to forget all about this complaint and be wishing you folks a Merry Christmas.
The same to you, officer.
And a Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Say, Mary, he was a nice fella at that, wasn't
Yes, he was.
Now, come on, Mary. Let's put the presents around the tree before the gang gets here, huh? Well, Mary, we got all the packages under the tree. It looks nice, doesn't it?
It sure does. Jack, if you're not going to use the Christmas tree lights, let's put on the candy canes.
Okay, here's the box, and you can... Hey, wait a minute. I had 12 candy canes, and now there are only 11. Where's the other one?
Don't look at me.
I'm not looking at you. I'm asking you.
All right, I ate it. Here's 10 cents.
Smarty. I bet you'd be surprised if I took it.
I wouldn't be surprised if you sued me.
Mary, let's get this finished, will you?
Jack, you better pick up those lights off the floor before somebody steps on them.
Oh, yes. Now, where can I put them? You're going to put these lights up here on the chair. This chair right here. And, Mary, here's Rochester's present. I forgot that. Slip it under the tree. Boy, will he be surprised.
But, Jack, how'll he be surprised? You've got toilet water written all over the package.
Well, you got to do that with Rochester. When he opens the package and finds a bottle, he never stops to read the label. Last year, I gave him a miniature ship and a bottle, and the mast stuck out of his mouth for 3 days. Every time I asked him something, he had to answer me through the crow's nest. Believe me, Mary, I know what I'm doing.
Well, Jack, I guess that does it. Tree's all finished.
Yeah. Gee, it looks swell. I'm kind of tired. I think I'll sit down for a minute and smoke a cigarette. Mary, have you got a match?
No.
Oh, well.
Oh, say, boss.
What is it, Rochester?
Are your socks dry yet?
My socks? I think so.
Well, people will be here soon. You better take them off the tree.
Oh, that's right. You take them off, will you, Rochester? I'm tired. I want to sit here a while.
Yes, sir. Say, this tree looks all nice, but it's kind of dark. Oh, no wonder the lights aren't plugged in. I'll fix that.
Pull it out! Pull it out! Pull it out! For heaven's sake.
Well, what's the matter, Jack?
I was sitting on the wire. As long as you're here, Rochester, give me a match.
You don't need it now. Your cigarette is lit.
Oh, yes. Thanks, Rochester.
Don't thank me. Thank that little man up at Boulder Dam.
Rochester. I wonder how that guy at Boulder Dam knew I was sick. Oh, well. Come in. Hello, Phil.
Hiya, Jackson. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Same to you, Phil.
Hey, Jackson, that Christmas tree looks terrific.
Yeah, it is a nice tree, isn't it?
Not only that, it's grown about 2 feet since last year.
Phil, this isn't the same one. You know, Phil, I believe in the old-fashioned way of getting a tree. I know when you get up early in the morning and bundle yourself up warm, and you throw an axe over your shoulder and go out in the woods, you know, way out in the wilderness and chop down your own Christmas tree.
Yeah, you're right, Jackson. Where'd you find this one?
In the lobby of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel.
You said it. Timber! Yes, sir.
Say, Jackson, you ought to see the tree I got in my house. I got it all decorated, and then right on top I got a big red star.
A red star? Phil's supposed to be a silver star.
I know, but this way I get 5 red points. Oh, Harris, you humorist. You're the Mark Twain of your generation.
Mark Twain. Phil, it's Twain. Twain.
Wheelie?
Phil, after a gag like that, you're lucky Santa doesn't scratch you with his claws. Say, that was pretty good, too.
Don't bother sending us Cracker Jack, Mother. We're now getting corn by the ton.
Oh, I don't know, Mary. I thought that was pretty cute. Hey, Phil, what do you got in that package there?
Oh, I forgot, Jackson. It's a Christmas present for you.
For me?
Yeah, me and the boys in the band all chipped in and got it for you.
Well, thanks. I'll put it under the tree.
Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. Open it up right now.
Okay. It was certainly nice of you and the boys to think of me. You know, I really didn't... Oh, Phil, thanks. Gee, a beautiful turtleneck sweater. Gee.
Well, look inside of it, Jackson.
Inside? Oh! Oh, Phil.
What is it, Jack?
A turtle. A fine present. I'll fix him. Imagine bring me a turtle for anything, Mary. Come here, Phil. Phil, sit down on my chair.
Well, thanks, Jackson.
Are you comfortable, Phil?
Sure.
Good. Mary, push in the plug.
Oh, Jack, you wouldn't dare.
Hand me the plug. I'll give it to him myself.
Hey, Jackson, what about my present?
Yes, sit where you are. You'll get it. It's a surprise. Mary, watch him jump. 1, 2, 3. There. Phil, don't you feel anything?
No, why? Well, what about the surprise? What's the matter?
We're having a little trouble at Boulder Dam.
Mary, I can't understand what went wrong. Phil, stand up a minute.
Okay.
Let's see. There must be something wrong with this thing. Pull it out! Pull it out! Pull it out! Fine thing to do to a guy on Christmas Eve.
Well, it's your own fault for trying to play a trick on Phil.
Oh, so that's it, eh, Jackson? Trying to give me a hot seat.
Oh, it was nothing, Phil. I was just trying to have a little fun. Pull it out! Pull it out!
Jack, that's a doorbell.
Oh. Come in. Hiya, Don. Hello, Larry.
Oh, Don, Phil, and Larry.
Hey, I'm glad you fellas were able to come over.
Oh, say, Mr. Benny.
Yes, Larry.
Well, last night I went to the movies and I saw a picture called Hollywood Canteen.
You did?
Yes. And you want to know something?
What?
You were in it.
Yes, I know, kid. I happened to see the picture.
8 times.
What?
On the days he can't go, he sends me.
Rochester.
Between you and me, that seat never gets a chance to cool off.
Never mind.
Well, say, Jack, I saw the picture, too.
You did, Don? Well, Don, tell me, how did my violin solo go over?
Well, Jack, this will amaze you.
Really?
When you started to play, the man next to me got all excited and enthused.
Oh, I get it, Don. I get it. You don't have to.
Okay, Mr. Benny, I got the cake and coffee on the table.
Good. Come on, fellas. Let's have a little bite. Come on, everybody. Now, take it easy, fellas. Take it easy. Take it easy. There's enough for all.
Yes, folks, you don't have to crowd. Just line up to the right and have your ticket stub ready.
Rochester, this is Christmas.
Oh, yes, excuse me.
Now, fellas. Hey, who can that be? Come in. Well, I'll be darned.
Hi there, Buck. Hello, everybody.
Well, what a surprise. Andy Devine.
Well, who'd you think I was, Frank Sinatra?
No, Andy, your voice and figure are both a little huskier, I think. Hey, Andy, there's Don Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Skinny.
Hello, Fatso. It's the first time I ever heard a pot call a pot a pot. Say, Andy, how's your mother?
Oh, she's swell, Buck. Hey, you know, it's nice the way you think of her every year.
Oh, I always call my friends around the holidays.
Well, you don't have to worry about Ma. Buck, she wouldn't think of buying her Christmas cards from anyone else but you.
I know. That's why I always throw in a couple of extra ones, you know?
Here you are, folks. Here's the... Oh, hello, Mr. Devine. Well, hello, Rochester. I'm glad you dropped in on the boss. Christmas wouldn't be Christmas without you. Well, thanks, Roch. You know, the holidays wouldn't be the same if I didn't see all of you folks.
Those are the two voices that drove Gravel Gertie into hiding. Say, come on, Andy. You're just in time to have a bite to eat. And listen, I've been saving a bottle of champagne just for this occasion. Let's drink a toast.
Champagne? Oh.
Come on, fellas, everybody. Oh, Rochester, give me that bottle of champagne.
Here you are, boss. Shall I open it?
No, I'll open it myself. Thank you. Now, let's see. Champagne corks are so tight. Gee, they're hard to get loose.
For goodness sake, fellas, don't just stand there. Pull the cork out of his mouth.
Okay, hold your head still, Jackson. I'll pull a cork out. Now, there.
Jack, say something.
Boy. Here, Rochester. Rochester, fill the glasses.
Yes, sir.
Hey, fellas, how about a toast?
Hey, I got one.
Go ahead, Andy. A toast, go ahead.
Here's to you, Buck, Mary, Phil, and the whole gang.
We've been friends for a long time, and I hope it always stays that way. Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas, Annie! Merry Christmas!
Jack, can I give a toast, too?
Sure. Go right ahead, Mary.
A Merry Christmas to everyone, everywhere.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas to all. That's right. Glad to see you.
Say, Jack, how about a toast from you?
Me? Yeah, I'd like to give a toast, too, Don. This is a toast to a lot of fellas I met in Africa, Europe, and the South Pacific. And to all you other boys out there I wasn't lucky enough to meet. Fellas, this is Christmas Eve, a time for happiness and good fellowship, a time when our hearts should be humble and forgiving. But this is war, and I've seen what you boys are up against on both sides of the world. I know the Christmas spirit must seem a very distant thing when you're crouched in a muddy foxhole or wading through the half-frozen slush. I know, too, that there's very little to remind you of Christmas inside a stifling tank or in the icy cockpit of a B-29 6 miles above Tokyo. Maybe you feel it as something you lost long, long ago, because the only Christmas lights you see are the bursts of shells or the flashing path cut by tracer bullets. But Christmas is a spirit that springs from within and is so strong it transcends even the ugly scenes of a battlefield and fills the soul with a passion to defend the things that are right and just. You are the ones who have gone to the ends of the earth to preserve the freedom you know belongs to every man, to hasten the day when all mankind can once again live in dignity and in peace. So here's to you, fellas. Merry Christmas, and God bless you all.
Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Christ the Lord. Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie above thy deep and dreamless sea. The silent stars go by, yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee. tender and mild. Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace.
Good night, folks.
This is the Armed Forces Radio Service.
I guess this was a pretty shocking Christmas for Jack, but once the whole gang arrived, Jack, Mary and friends all seemed to have a very Merry Christmas. And yet on that December 24th, 1944, they had time to remember the soldiers, sailors, flyers, and Marines fighting overseas during World War II. Coming up right after this break, we'll visit our favourite high school English teacher, our Miss Brooks, as we're on our way to St. John's, Newfoundland.
Join us at NLWN-TV and the Northern Light Webcasting Network for exciting high school boys basketball.
This is what we came in for!
Our next game will be on January 4th when the Viking boys take on the Turtle Lake Lakers from Colfax High School. Live coverage on the Northern Light Webcasting Network audio service and on NLWN-TV begins with the Viking pregame at 6:55 p.m. That's live Colfax Viking boys basketball on Monday, January 4th on the Northern Light Webcasting Network and NLWN-TV.
we're coming into St. John's, Newfoundland with our first stop in North America. As we get ready to make our deliveries in St. John's, let's get ready to check in with our Miss Brooks. Our Miss Brooks, an American situation comedy, began as a radio hit in 1948 and migrated to television in 1952, becoming one of the earlier hits of the so-called golden age of television, and making a star out of Eve Arden, as comely, wisecracking, but humane high school English teacher Connie Brooks. The show hooked around Connie's daily relationships with Madison High School students, colleagues, and pompous principal, Osgood Conklin, played by Gail Gordon, not to mention favourite student Walter Denton, portrayed by a young Richard Crenna, and biology teacher Philip Boynton, who was in real life Jeff Chandler, and in the show was Connie's all but unrequited love interest, and who saw signs everywhere and little else anywhere. In this episode, The Magic Christmas Tree was sponsored by Colgate toothpaste and Luster Creme shampoo. The script was previously used on December 19, 1948, December 25, 1949, and subsequently on December 23, 1951, December 21, 1952, and December 25, 1955. This episode featured Eve Arden, Jane Morgan, Richard Crenna, Gail Gordon, Jeff Chandler, Gloria McMillan. Now, from December 24, 1950, here's our Miss Brooks in The Magic Christmas Tree.
The Colgate-Palmolive Peat Company, makers of Luster Cream Shampoo and Colgate Dental Cream, bring you Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. And we should like to open our show with greetings and best wishes from Colgate-Palmolive Peat for a gloriously Merry Christmas. And now, Our Miss Brooks. Yes, it's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks, under the direction of Al Lewis. Well, many of us are spending this Christmas Eve with our families and friends. But our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, isn't quite so fortunate.
No, my family was too far away to visit, and it seems my friends had other plans. But I made up my mind not to brood about it, and I was trimming a rather tiny tree in our living room when Mrs. Davis, my landlady, joined me.
That's quite a nice Christmas tree, Connie.
It isn't really a Christmas tree, Mrs. Davis. It's called a friendship tree. You see, I trim it by putting all my greeting cards on the branches with strips of cellophane tape. Looks nice, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You certainly received some pretty cards this year.
And the sentiments are so lovely. Look at this one I got from my principal.
Mr. Conklin, what does it say, dear?
It's very heartwarming, Mrs. Davis. It says, to Miss Brooks, may the coming year bring you much more efficiency in your work. Signed, O. Conklin.
Oh, I can hardly believe it's Christmas time again. What happy memories I have of the earlier Christmases. There was one I'll never forget. I was just 8 years old, and when I tiptoed into the living room, there was my father standing by the tree. The minute he saw me, his eyes crinkled up, and he started to laugh, so that his big white beard and its huge paunch just shook with glee.
Your father was made up as Santa Claus?
No, he always looked that way. But to get back to the present, Connie, I'd love to stay here and celebrate Christmas Eve with you, but I promised my sister Angela I'd come over to her place. You remember Angela, the absent-minded one?
Oh, certainly, Mrs. Davis.
She always got a big thrill out of the holidays, too, even when we were girls. Of course, the poor dear could never remember when it was actually Christmas. And one Christmas day, she did the funniest thing.
What was that, Mrs. Davis?
What's what, dear?
What did Angela do?
Angela?
Your sister.
My sister.
The absent-minded one. What did she do?
Well, I haven't spoken to Angela in some time. What has she been up to?
I wish I knew. Maybe I can refresh your memory. Christmas morning, Angela did the funniest thing.
Christmas morning isn't until tomorrow, Connie. You must be confused.
Oh, don't worry about it. I only get these spells once in a while.
Well, you shouldn't let it go, Connie. If you don't mind my offering a little advice, I'd like to suggest that you train your mind to concentrate more.
I'll do it, Mrs. Davis.
Now then, I've developed a little scheme which works wonders for me. Supposing you have trouble remembering where you put things around the house. Well, you just keep repeating the location to yourself with a sort of rhythm. For example, I just chant to myself, the mustard's in the closet, the bread is in the box. The mustard's in the closet, the bread is in the box. Now, isn't that simple? Mustard's in the closet, bread is in the box.
That's wonderful, Mrs. Davis. If anybody wants a mustard sandwich, you're really ready.
Yes. Now, before I do anything else, I want to invite you to join me tonight.
Join you?
Yes, dear. I'm going over to
Angela's house.
Oh, yes, that's right. Oh, she's so cute with that little absent mind of hers. Why, sometimes she forgets what she was talking about right in the middle of a... Oh, dear me, I hope there's enough milk for the cat.
Well, I'm sure if we... But then maybe someday. Or if it doesn't seem to... And that's why I can't join you tonight. But thanks anyway, Mrs. Davis. I'll just spend a quiet evening at home here.
But how about Mr. Boynton? Don't tell me he was too shy to ask you for a date on Christmas Eve.
Why do you think there's mistletoe on all four walls? No, Mr. Boynton asked me all right, but then he canceled yesterday. Said he's going upstate to visit his folks for a couple of days. But don't worry about me, Mrs. Davis. I'll have a gay time. I'll listen to the radio, read, and from this window I can see our neighbor's television antenna.
But what about the little gifts you got for Walter Denton and Mr. and Mrs. Conklin and Harriet? When are you going to deliver them?
They told me not to bother. They said we'd exchange on the 26th.
The 26th? But I don't think the day after Christmas is the time to exchange gifts.
You don't? You should see the department stores. What's that, Mrs. Davis?
Oh, it's Minerva. Where are you, dear?
Oh, she's over by the tree. Here, Rover. Minerva.
Isn't it the strangest thing how she bites at the pine needles? I guess the rosin in them appeals to her. I swear she likes the taste of it.
I guess to her it's like a Tom and Jerry. Or rather a Minnie and a Mickey. Come here, Minerva. We might as well get friendly. We're going to spend the evening together.
Well, I'll be running along now, dear. I hope you won't feel too lonely.
I'll be fine, Mrs. Davis. After all, I do have an imagination. I'll hang up my stocking in a little while. Then, when I'm pretending I'm asleep, I'll sneak in and fill it. Before you know it, it'll be midnight.
Midnight of Christmas Eve.
I can just picture it. A short, thin man in a black suit comes sliding down the chimney with an empty bag. St. Penniless, the schoolteacher Santa Claus.
Well, at least you're not bitter. Now, Connie, about my sister,
Angela.
Thank you, dear. About my sister Angela.
Yes?
Good night, Dorothy.
Good night, Bernice. Oh, stop drinking those pine needles, Minerva. Come over here. That's a good kitty. Now I'll just settle down in Mrs. Davis's rocker, and we'll have ourselves a nice, quiet rock. I've got to exercise more. My bones are rusting. Oh, it's the rocker. It's kind of soothing at that. You seem contented enough, Minerva? It was the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Oops, sorry, Minerva. I didn't mean to upset you. Oh, gosh, I'm sleepy. Now, who can that be? Expecting anyone, Minerva? That's funny. Nobody's here.
I'm here.
Where? Oh, leaning on my knee. What can I do for you?
I'm a salesman, but I don't believe in giving any sales talk or sob stories. All I do is tell you what I'm selling. If you want to buy, okay. If not, okay.
Okay, what are you selling?
Well, it's Christmas Eve. I'm just a small urchin, a little on the underprivileged side. I'm trying to make a few dollars to get some wood to heat our tiny apartment. So while she's singing to my 3 sick sisters, my mother's lips don't turn blue.
That's what I like, no sob stories. If you're selling handkerchiefs, I'll take 6.
No, ma'am. I'm selling Christmas trees. They're only $1 a piece.
Oh, I've already got a tree.
Then I'll make it 50 cents.
But I don't need
How about
a
a quarter?
Look, little boy.
I can arrange payments. Please take one, ma'am. These aren't ordinary trees, you know. They're magic.
Magic?
Yes, ma'am. You'd be surprised what miracles will happen if you buy one.
Well, a quarter isn't too much to pay for a miracle.
It's 50 cents.
I thought you said 25.
That's when you sounded tougher to sell.
Oh, well, before I melt down to my coal buttons and the stovepipe hat, here's 50 cents.
You won't be sorry, ma'am. Here's a little tree.
Say, it's kind of cute at that. Would you like to come in and help me set it up?
Oh, I can't. I gotta get right home. My sitter's been alone long enough.
Sitter? What about your mother and the firewood?
That's just a routine. My folks are attending a dinner the other bank presidents are giving for Father.
With the pitch you've got, you'll have your own bank by the time you're 12.
Thanks a lot. Good night, lady, and Merry Christmas.
Same to you, you little underprivileged millionaire. I'll put this tree over here. Maybe we can find some extra trimmings for it in the morning. Meow. Minerva, will you stop gnawing on those pine needles? I wish I knew what made them so appetizing to her.
Meow.
Oh. Now you come here and let those things alone. There we are. Well, I guess I'm not the only one that's spending Christmas Eve alone, without family or friends. But who can tell? Maybe Santa Claus has something up his big red sleeve that I don't even know about yet. Of course, I do have a squeaky rocker and Minerva. Jingle bells, and merry stuff like that. Oh, what fun it is to rock with a big fat drunken cat. As I sat in the living room Christmas Eve with Minerva the cat on my lap, I couldn't help noticing that the tree which I'd bought from that wealthy urchin had a rather peculiar luminosity. Although there wasn't any artificial illumination, it seemed to glow from deep down in its branches. As I rocked back and forth, I started to get very drowsy. Oh, the little boy said this tree was magic, Minerva. I don't believe it either. Still, it is Christmas Eve, and some very strange things have happened on Christmas Eve. Huh? What's that? Oh. I must have been dozing. Coming! Well, it's Walter Denton. Come in, Walter.
Noel, Joy, use Noel.
Gracias. Come on into the living room, Walter.
Thanks, Miss Brooks. Here, I brought you this little gift to put under your tree.
Oh, that was very thoughtful, Walter. Put it under this tree over here.
Okay. Say, you got 2 trees, haven't you?
Yes, one for Minerva and one for me.
Yeah. What?
Don't pay any attention to her. She's pine needle happy.
Well, Miss Brooks, as you know, I was supposed to spend the evening nestled snugly in the tight little confines of my own small, immediate family circle.
For heaven's sakes, come out of there. You're giving me claustrophobia.
But I went to my father and mother and crowed their permission.
Wait a minute, Walter. You crove their permission?
Yeah. Craven, crove, isn't it?
Of course not. Crave. Let's see. Craven. After you crove their permission, what?
Well, they waived my presence for a long enough while for me to deliver to you, Miss Brooks, the little token of my esteem and affection, which is now ensconcing under the tree.
Walter, are you still in my English class?
Sure, Miss Brooks.
Well, I'd better bone up a little. One of us is going to flunk this term.
What I'd like to say, Miss Brooks, is something that I've wanted to say for a long time.
Yes, Walter?
It's a little on the sentimental side, perhaps, for a so-called hep high school boy to be telling the teacher, but it's sincere, Miss Brooks.
I'm sure it is.
It's something I feel deep down inside of me, Miss Brooks, from whence so many of one's warmer emotions stem.
That's whence they stem from, all right.
Of course, even if it does seem over-sentimental or even downright sticky, Christmas Eve seems to be the time you can say things like this and not sound over-sentimental or sticky.
Christmas Eve is the time to say them. I just hope I hear them by New Year's Eve.
What I want you to know, Miss Brooks, is that I'm grateful.
For what?
For my association with you during the past semester at Madison High School.
Well, thank you, Walter. I've tried to be a capable teacher.
Oh, your teaching was nothing. I don't mean scholastically. As a teacher, you were very adequate. No, I mean personally. The interest you took in me and my problems. For that, I could never thank you if I lived to be 100. Of course, you'd be gone a long time by then.
Bio Noel to you, too.
You don't know what it's meant to me to have your ear whenever I needed it.
It was nothing, really. I have another one.
Especially about girls. Gosh, remember how silly I used to act about girls? Every time one of them looked at me, I giggled like a kid. And then, overnight, I matured. I met the one woman who mattered. Harriet Conklin.
She certainly made something out of you, Walter. I don't know what, but something.
And you saw me through the difficult transition period of that amour as well, while Harriet and I were adjusting to one another. It was wonderful to be able to come to you for advice, Miss Brooks. It isn't every boy who has such an interest taken in him by some intelligent, elderly person.
Give me back my ear. I can't hear you.
Not that you're ancient or anything. Gosh, I've seen girls who don't look as good as you do.
Girls? What do you think I am?
Yeah.
Shut up, Minerva.
By the way, Miss Brooks, I see you got lots of mistletoe on the walls. Were you expecting Mr. Boynton tonight?
Yes, Walter, I was. We were going for a wheelchair ride together. But he had to visit his folks upstate.
His folks? Gosh, they must be well along in years.
His father's over 50. They may shoot him next spring. Look, Walter, while you're here, you might as well pick up the little gift I got for you.
Oh, but you shouldn't have, Miss Brooks. Where is it?
Under the tree on your right. It isn't much, just a remembrance.
Gee, I almost forgot. I can't open it yet.
Why not? Oh, you mean you want to put it under your tree at home and open it with your family?
Well, not exactly, but I'll get it later, Miss Brooks. There they are now. I'll answer it.
There who are now?
Come on in, folks. She was all alone when I got here.
It's really a surprise, isn't it?
We should have stayed home Christmas Eve. Besides, it's freezing out.
Now, Osgood, don't be so grouchy. Hello, Miss Brooks. Merry Christmas.
Why, it's Mr. and Mrs. Conklin and Harriet. How are you all?
I'm cold.
Oh, that's too bad. Come here, Minerva. Rub up against Mr. Conklin.
Meow.
What's that? Go away, cat.
She seems to like you, Osgood. Or is she hungry, Miss Brooks?
She's not that hungry.
I don't like cats. Why doesn't she go chase a mouse or something?
You forget, Mr. Conklin. This is Christmas Eve. There isn't one stirring.
Say, Harriet.
Yes, Walter?
There's a lot of mistletoe around this room.
I know. It's real pretty.
Osgood, notice all the mistletoe in this room?
What? Oh, that green stuff. More often than not, it makes me sneeze.
Oh, come on, Osgood. Let's see if it does.
Oh, now, Martha, don't embarrass me. I don't like that.
It doesn't make you sneeze, does it, Harriet?
I'm willing to find out. Here's a nice wreath of it on this wall.
Yeah. Well, here we are.
Yes, here we are.
May I, Mr. and Mrs. Conklin?
If it's all right with Harriet, it's all right with us. Oh, come on, Walter. We're getting old.
Oh, gosh, you're sweet, Harriet.
Isn't that cute, Osgood? Oh, come here, dear. How about one for your faithful old wife?
Well, it is customary, I guess. There. I'm under the stuff.
Now pucker up, dear.
Very well, very well. You see, I told you. Now let's stop this romantic dribble and act like adult human beings. Miss Brooks, I'd like to take advantage of this visit to inquire as to your plans for the coming year's classwork. Do you have your schedule all laid out?
Frankly, Mr. Conklin, I haven't had much chance to work on anything.
Haven't had much of a chance, but you've been away from school all week. Your vacation started last Monday.
I know, Mr. Conklin, and that's what I took the week as. I mean, a vacation is something you go on when you get the opportunity to. You don't work on it or during it, unless, even though I didn't actually go anywhere, when my vacation came along, I went on it, or was on one, usually.
And you wanted to be the head of the English department.
Please, Osgood, this is no time to talk of school affairs. We're here to spend part of our holiday with Miss Brooks.
It was very nice of you to think about me, Mrs. Conklin. It was nice of all of you. Where are Walter and Harriet?
Denton, get my daughter away from that mistletoe at once.
But, Mr. Conklin, Harriet isn't allergic to mistletoe.
No, but I'm allergic to you.
Harriet's almost irresistible sometimes, especially alongside of older women like Mrs. Conklin and Miss Brooks.
Sounds like the bell. I'll get it. Why, Mr. Boynton, come in.
Sure, thanks, Miss Brooks.
But I thought you were going upstate to see your folks.
I was, but they sent me a wire that they wanted to come here for about a week or so. They'll arrive in the morning, so I thought I'd drop this little gift off for you tonight.
Oh, but you shouldn't have. Where is it? Let's just put it under the tree in the living room. Look who's here, everybody.
Well, it's Mr. Boynton.
Hi there, Mr. B.
This is nice.
Hello, Boynton. Pretty cold out, isn't it?
Hello, folks.
This is beginning to get more like Christmas Eve every minute. Sit down, Mr. Boynton. I'm certainly glad your folks decided to visit you instead of vice versa.
Well, so am I. There's a particularly good reason why I'm glad.
There is?
Yes. It gives me a chance to see how my guinea pigs are affected by this cold snap. So far, they haven't reacted at all.
What do you expect them to do? Blow on their paws?
Miss Brooks, have you pointed out the mistletoe to Mr. Boynton?
Oh, why don't you stop that nonsense, Martha?
It isn't nonsense. Mr. Boynton, look at the mistletoe.
Mistletoe? Oh, yes. A very interesting example of the flora found in various areas throughout the globe. An evergreen parasitic shrub, it is indigenous to the regions where apple trees and oaks abound.
Now that the lecture is over, may we ask questions?
Certainly, Miss Brooks.
Want to stand under it?
Stand under it? Well, you see, because of certain characteristics in its makeup, an allergy is sometimes aggravated by its presence.
I'll take a chance if you will.
Come on, Mr. Boynton.
Yeah, come on, Mr. Boynton.
Just bring him over to this wall, here.
Well, I'll get under it if you like.
Well, don't just stand there. Can't you see Miss Brooks is cooking?
Well, don't fuss for me. I couldn't eat a thing.
Don't you know what standing under the mistletoe signifies?
Well, I know what it signifies to most people, but to me, it's...
Well, there goes 85 cents worth of mistletoe.
I know what let's do. Let's open up the presents right now.
Swell. A splendid suggestion, Walter.
Shouldn't we wait until just before we leave? Might be less embarrassing that way.
Well, if you want to open them now...
Golly, this one tree's pretty crowded. I'll put some of these packages under this little one over here.
Well, look out, Walter. You're bumping into one of the branches. Look out.
Gosh, I got the funniest feeling when I touched that branch.
What kind of a feeling, Walter?
Well, you're Harriet Conklin, aren't you?
Well, sure I'm Harriet Conklin. Walter, what's the matter with you?
Nothing. Nothing's the matter with me. It's just that I want to tell you something. Harriet, you've got to change. You ought to try to be more like Miss Brooks.
Well, what do you mean, Walter?
If you want me to stay interested in you, you gotta be more alluring, youthful, glamorous, feminine in that real feline Brooks way.
Walter, have you been drinking pine needles, too?
Look at that tree. It seems to be glowing.
What do you mean, glowing? It's just the reflection from the streetlights. This party's giving me the memes. Holidays, indeed. Here, I'll just move the tree where it won't glisten in our eyes. Here we go. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Of course I'm Mr. Conklin. Happy-go-lucky, fun-loving, gag-a-minute Osgood.
Gag-a-minute Osgood?
Sometimes I've wanted to.
Miss Brooks, is that really you standing there?
I think so, Mr. Conklin. Why do you ask?
Because you suddenly look so different, so intelligent. Miss Brooks, I have made up my mind. You are now head of the Madison High English Department. Ha, 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 ha!
Well, thank you, fun-loving Osgood.
I'm going to put this wonderful tree where it belongs, right in the center of the room. Give me a hand, Boynton.
Yes, sir, Mr. Conklin. I'll just take this end here and... Miss Brooks.
Yes, Mr. Boynton?
Come here, baby.
What?
I said, come here, Connie.
You did not. You said, come here, baby, and I'm here.
Look, he's taking her over to the mistletoe.
Isn't it wonderful? What are you going to do, Mr. Boynton?
Just call me Phil, Connie. And this is what I'm going to do. How does that make you feel?
I feel like I'm in a dream, Philip. A wonderful, beautiful dream. Mr. Boynton. Mr. Boynton. Mr. Boynton, where are you? Where did everybody go? Oh, I must have been dreaming. Well, that's real enough. I'll be right there. Oh, sorry, Minerva. I didn't mean to drop you.
Merry Christmas, Miss Brooks! Merry Christmas!
I'm cold.
Why, it's the Conklins and Walter and Mr. Boynton. But you all just left. I mean, come in.
We thought it would be nice if we spent our Christmas Eve together, Miss Brooks.
Yes, and we brought a few little gifts over for you.
I'll just put them under this tree here.
Yes, do that, Walter.
Aren't you going to ask me why I didn't go upstate, Miss Brooks?
I know why, Mr. Boynton. Your folks are coming down to see you.
How did you know that? I just got the telegram.
Don't let's get too carried away with the holidays. We've got to prepare for a hard school season ahead, Miss Brooks.
Oh, let's not talk about school affairs now, Osgood.
Walter, look at the mistletoe.
Yeah, look at it.
Now, just a minute before we go through all that again. Would you please touch the tree, Mr. Boynton? The one on the left with the... Why, it's gone. There's only one tree.
Miss Brooks, are you all right?
Of course I'm all right. Could I have dreamt that part, too? Mr. Boynton, would you do me a favor, please?
Oh, of course, Miss Brooks. What is it?
Would you touch the Christmas tree?
Touch it?
Please, it's important.
Oh, all right. There.
Nothing happened.
What did you expect would happen?
A miracle. Excuse me, I'll be right back.
I'm a little urchin, and I'm selling magic Christmas trees.
But you just came here...
Please buy one, lady. They only cost 50 cents apiece.
50 cents?
That's right.
Here's $2. Give me 4 of them.
Once again, here is Eve Arden.
From the bottom of my heart, to you in the audience, to you in every home, on every road, in every city and town, in the busy places and in the lonely places, oh, a very Merry Christmas to each of you. With our sponsor, the Colgate Palmolive Peat Company, who make Luster Cream Shampoo and Colgate Dental Cream, all of us here in the studio have gathered to wish all of you throughout our beautiful and bountiful land the most joyous of Christmases. And may these words ring round the world and sink deep in the heart of everyone. Peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Merry, Merry Christmas, everyone.
For mystery liberally sprinkled with laughs, listen to Mr. and Mrs. North. Tune in Tuesday evening over most of these same stations. And be with us again next week at this same time for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Bob Lamont speaking. Stay tuned now for Jack Benny. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
One of these days, Connie's Christmas dreams about Mr. Boynton may come true, and maybe with the help of a magic Christmas tree. Before. We've just wrapped up deliveries in St. John's and the GPS has been set for San Juan, Puerto Rico. We'll continue our Christmas journey right after this message.
You're tuned to the Northern Light Webcasting Network and NLWN-TV. We use advertising revenue to make this service available to you. If you have a business and would like to get your message out to our ever-increasing audience, give us a call at 715-563-1749. We'll be happy to discuss our budget-friendly advertising packages with you. Get your business noticed on the Northern Light Webcasting Network and NLWN-TV by calling 715-563-1749.
Our next story has some elements many of you will find quite familiar. And why not? One of the most popular movies around Christmas time is A Christmas Story, a tale about a boy and his desire to get a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas. The original story from which that tale came was written by Gene Shepard. Gene Shepard was a writer, humorist, satirist, actor, radio, television and film personality. A master storyteller, he took bits and pieces from his youth in Hammond, Indiana. His adventures in the Army Signal Corps and stories of the obscure and infamous were all fertile sources for his tales. For almost 3 decades, he told these stories to eager radio audiences, in Cincinnati from 1950 to 1954 and on WOR in New York from 1956 to 1977. In the 70s, he took his talents to television in a series of humorous narratives for PBS called Gene Shepard's America, later continued on the PBS New Jersey network as Shepherd's Pie. Here he was able to show us the more offbeat aspects of America, particularly his own home state, which he loved to ridicule. This led to a series of teleplays for PBS WGBH's American Playhouse, The Phantom of the Open Hearth, The Great American 4th of July and Other Disasters, Ollie Hop Noodle's Haven of Bliss and The Star-Crossed Romance of Josephine Kosnowski. His most popular and well-known work is the film A Christmas Story, which he co-wrote and narrated. Listen closely and you will hear the origins of A Christmas Story. Tonight's story is from the Gene Shepard Show on WOR in New York from December 24, 1974 and is called Red Ryder Nails the Cleveland Street Kid.
Jingle all the way. No, don't take it out yet. No, let's throw into this. Okay, that's enough. That's enough of the theme tonight. We don't have that much time, and it's only Christmas Eve. And for the last 6 or 7 years now, we have read this story, and I've gotten a lot of requests for it. And it's kind of a thing we always do on Christmas Eve. And it's a short story that originally appeared in Playboy. It's not really a short story. It was a chapter from my novel, In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, which was published, by the way, in 1961 by Doubleday and is available still in paperback. The chapter appeared in Playboy, and that year won the Humor Award for that particular story. This is the first chapter. Also add quickly that some people follow it, by the way, as I read. It's been edited for air because it's far too long to read in the short time we have. However, the story is called Duel in the Snow, or Red Ryder Nails the Cleveland Street Kid.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Now, the opening of the story, the I in the story is not me, by the way. It's a universal I, and this particular I is named Ralph Parker, who is a New Yorker, and he's sitting in the Horn and Hardort having a cup of coffee, and he begins to think about the curious lure that toy guns have for kids. Kids all over the world are attracted to toy guns, whether or not their parents want them to do it or not. It's just a universal urge. Outside in the spanking December breeze, a Salvation Army Santa Claus listlessly tolled his bell, huddled in a doorway to avoid the direct blast of the wind. I sipped my coffee and remembered another Christmas, in another time, in another place, and a gun. I remember clearly, itchingly, nervously, maddeningly the first time I laid eyes on it, pictured in a 3-color smeared illustration in a full-page back cover ad in Open Road for Boys, a publication which at the time had an iron grip on my aesthetic sensibilities and the dime that I had to scratch up every month to stay with it. It was actually an early Playboy. It sold dreams, fantasies, incredible adventures, and a way of life. Its center foldouts consisted of gigantic Kodiak bears charging out of the page at the reader to be gunned down in single hand-to-hand combat by the 11-year-old killers armed only with hunting knife and fantastic bravery. Its Christmas issue weighed over 7 pounds, its page crammed with the effluvia of the good life of male juvenilia, until the senses reeled, and avariciousness, the growing desire to own everything, was almost unbearable. Today there must be millions of ex-subscribers who still can't pass Abercrombie & Fitch without a faint, keening note of desire and the unrequited urge to glom onto all of it, just to have it, to feel it. Early in the fall, the first ad appeared. It was a magnificent thing of balanced copy and pictures, superb artwork, and subtly contrived catchphrases. I was among the very first hooked, I freely admit it. Boys. At last, you can own an official Red Ryder carbine action 200-shot range model air rifle. This in block red and black letters surrounded by a large balloon coming out of Red Ryder's own mouth, wearing his enormous 10-gallon Stetson, his jaw squared, staring out at me manfully and speaking directly to me, eye to eye. In his hand was the knurled stock of as beautiful, as coolly deadly-looking piece of weaponry as I'd ever laid eyes on. Yes, fellows. Red Ryder continued, under the gun. Yes, fellows, this 200-shot carbine action air rifle, just like the one I use in all my range wars, chasing them rustlers and bad guys, can be your own, your very own. It has a special built-in secret compass in the stock for telling the direction if you're lost on the trail, and also an official Red Ryder sundial for telling time out in the wild. You just lay your cheek against this stock, sight over my own special designed cloverleaf sight, and you just can't miss. Tell Dad it's great for target shooting and varmints, and it will make a swell Christmas gift. Wow. The next issue arrived, and Red Ryder was even more insistent, now implying that the supply of Red Ryder BB guns was limited, and to order now, and see your dealer gets them in before it's too late. It was the second ad that actually did the trick on me. It was late November, and the Christmas fever was well upon me. I thought about a Red Ryder air rifle in all of my waking hours, 7 days a week, in school and out. I drew pictures of it in my reader, in my arithmetic book, on my hand in indelible ink, on Helen Weather's dress in front of me in crayon. For the first time in my life, the initial symptoms of genuine lunacy, of mania, had set in. I imagined innumerable situations calling for the instant and the irrevocable need for a BB gun. Great fantasies where I fended off creeping marauders burrowing through the snow toward the kitchen, where only I, and I alone, stood between our tiny huddled family and insensate evil. Acts of selfless chivalry defending Esther Jane Albury from escaped circus tigers. Time and time again, I saw myself a miraculous crack shot picking off sparrows on the wing to the gasps of admiring girls and envious rivals on Cleveland Street. There was no question about it. Not only should I have such a gun, it was an absolute necessity. Early December saw the first of the great blizzards of that year. The wind howling down out of the Canadian wilds a few hundred miles to the north had screamed over frozen Lake Michigan and hit Holmen, laying on the town great drifts of snow and long, story-high icicles and sub-zero temperatures where the air cracked and sang. Our streetcar wires creaked on caked ice, and kids plodded to school through 45-mile-an-hour gales, tilting forward like tiny furred radiator ornaments, moving stiffly over the barren, clattering ground. Preparing to go to school was about like getting ready for extended deep-sea diving. Long johns, corduroy knickers, checkered flannel lumberjack shirt, 4 sweaters, fleece-lined leatherette sheepskin coat, helmet, goggles, mittens with leatherette gauntlets, and a large star with an Indian cheese face in the middle, 3 pair of socks, high tops, overshoes, and a 16-foot scarf wound spirally from left to right until only the faint glint of 2 eyes peering out of a mound of moving clothing told you that there was a kid in the neighborhood. There was no question of staying home. It never entered anyone's mind. It was a hardier time, of course, and Miss Bodkin was a hardier teacher than the present breed. Cold was something that was accepted, like air, clouds, and parents, a fact of nature, and as such could not be used in any fraudulent scheme to stay out of school. My mother would simply throw her shoulder against the front door, pushing back the advancing drifts and stone ice, the wind raking the living room rug with an angry fury for an instant, and we would be launched, one after the other, my brother and I, like astronauts, into the unfriendly Arctic space. The door clanged shut behind us, and that was it. It was make school or die. Scattered over the icy wastes around us could be seen other tiny, befurred jots of wind-driven humanity, all painfully toiling towards the Warren G. Harding School, miles away over the tundra, waddling under the weight of frost-covered clothing like tiny frozen bowling balls with feet. An occasional piteous whimper could be heard faintly, but lost instantly in the sigh of the eternal wind. All of us were bound for geography lessons involving the exports of Peru, reading lessons dealing with fat cats and dogs named Jack. But over it all, like a faint, thin, off-stage chorus, was the building excitement. Christmas was on its way. Downtown Holmen, Indiana, was prepared for its yearly bacchanalia of peace on earth and goodwill to men. For several years, the windows of Goldblatt's department store had been curtained and dark. Their corner window was traditionally a major high-water mark of the pre-Christmas season. It set the tone, the motif of their giant Yuletide jubilee. Kids were brought in from miles around just to see the window. Old codgers would recall vintage years when the window had flowered more fulsomely than in ordinary times, and this was one of those years. The magnificent display was officially unveiled on a crowded Saturday night. It was an instant smash hit. First nighters packed earmuff to earmuff, their steamy breath clouding up the sparkling plate glass, jostled in rapt admiration before a golden, tinkling panoply of mechanic eyes, electronic joy. It was the heyday of the 7 Dwarfs and their virginal den mother, Snow White. Walt Disney's 7 cutie pies hammered and sawed, chiseled and painted, while Santa, bouncing Snow White on his mechanical knee, ho-ho-hoed through 8 strategically placed loudspeakers, interspersed by choruses of hi-ho, hi-ho, it's off to work we go. Grumpy sat at the controls of a miniature 8-wheel Rock Island Road steam engine, and Sleepy played a marimba, while in the background, inexplicably, Mrs. Klaus ceaselessly ironed a red shirt. Sparkling artificial snow drifted down on Shirley Temple dolls. Flexible flyers and Tinker toy sets glowed in the golden spotlight. In the foreground, a frontier stockade made of Lincoln logs was manned by a company of kilted lead Highlanders who were doubtfully fending off an attack by 6 U.S. Army medium tanks. It was an incredible display. By the way, history has always been vague in Indiana. A few feet away stood an Arthurian cardboard castle with Raggedy Andy sitting on the drawbridge, his feet in the moat through which a Lionel freight train burping real smoke went round and round. Dopey sat in Amos and Andy's pedal-operated fresh air taxi cab beside a stuffed panda holding a lollipop in his paw, bearing the heart-tugging legend, Hug Me. From fluffy cotton clouds above, Dione quintuplet dolls wearing plaid golf knickers hung from billowing parachutes, having just bailed out of a high-flying balsa wood Fokker triplane. All in all, Santa's workshop made Salvador Dali look like Norman Rockwell. It was a good year, maybe a great one. Like a swelling Christmas balloon, the excitement mounted until the whole town tossed restlessly in bed and made plans for the big day. Already my own scheme was well underway. My personal dream. Casually, carefully, calculatingly, I had booby-trapped the house with copies of Open Road for Boys, all open to Red Ryder's slit-eyed face. My father, a great John reader, found himself for the first time in his life in alien literary waters. My mother, grabbing for her copy of Screen Romances, found herself cleverly euchred into reading a Red Ryder sales pitch. I had stuck a copy of Open Road for Boys inside the cover, showing Clark Gable clasping Loretta Young to his heaving breast. At breakfast, I hinted that there was a rumor of loose bears in the neighborhood. I was ready to deal with them, if I had the proper equipment, of course. At first, my mother and the old man did not rise to the bait, and I began to grow anxious, and of course, inevitably, overplayed my hand. Christmas was only 2 weeks away. I couldn't waste time with subtlety or droll innuendo. My brother, occasionally emerging from under the daybed during this critical period, was already well involved in some private little brother persiflage of his own, involving an erector set with motor, capable of constructing drawbridges, Eiffel Towers, Ferris wheels, and operating guillotines. I knew that if he got wind of my scheme, all was lost. He would then begin wheedling and whining for what I wanted, which would result in nobody scoring, since he was obviously too young for deadly weapons. So I cleverly pretended that what I wanted, nothing more, was just a simple, utilitarian, unpretentious Sandy Andy, a highly symbolic educational toy popular at the time, consisting of a kind of funnel under which was mounted a tiny conveyor belt of little scoop-like gondolas. It came with a bag of white sand that was poured into the funnel. The sand, trickling out of the bottom into the gondola, set the belt in motion. As each gondola was filled, it moved back down the track to be replaced by another, which, when filled, moved down another notch, and endlessly they went, dumping sand out at the bottom of the track and starting up the back loop to be refilled again, on, until all the sand was deposited in the red cup at the bottom of the track. The kid then emptied the cup into the funnel and started over again, ceaselessly, senselessly, round and round. How like life itself. It was the perfect toy to teach a kid what it's all about. Through my brain, however, there dashed and danced visions of six-guns snapped from the hip and shattering bottles, and a gnawing, nameless frenzy of impending ecstasy. Well, I had to do something about it. And so one day, my mother, leaning over a pot of simmering oatmeal, suddenly asked out of the blue, "What would you like for Christmas?" Horrified, I heard myself blurt, "A Red Ryder BB gun!" Without pausing or even missing a stroke with her tablespoon, she shot back, "Oh no, you'll shoot out your eyes." It was a classic mother BB gun block. I was sunk. That deadly phrase, used many times before by hundreds of mothers, was not surmountable by any means known to kiddom. I had really booted it. Such was my mania, my desire for a Red Ryder carbine, that I immediately began to rebuild the dike. I was just kidding. Even though Flick is getting one, you know. Flick's getting one. That was a lie, of course. I guess, what I'd like is a Sandy Andy, I guess. I watched the back of her Chinese red chenille bathrobe anxiously, waiting for any sign that my shaft had struck home. They're dangerous. I don't want anybody shooting their eyes out. The boom was lowered, and I was under it. And so finally, at the far end of Toyland in Goldblatt's, which was on the 3rd floor, is a Santa Claus, a big Santa Claus, sitting there on his throne, asking kids what they wanted for Christmas. I figured I'd try it. On a snowy throne, framed with red and white candy canes under a suspended squadron of plastic angels, blowing silver trumpets in a glowing golden grotto, sat the man, the connection, Santa Claus himself. In northern Indiana, Santa Claus is a big man, both spiritually and physically, and the Santa Claus at Goldblatt's was officially recognized among kids as being unquestionably the Santa Claus, in person. 8 feet tall, shiny hide, black patent leather boots, a nimbus cloud of snow-white beard, and a real thrumming, belt-creaking stomach, no pillows or stuffing, I mean a real stomach. A long line of nervous, fidgeting, greedy urchins wound in and out of the aisles, shoving, sniffling, and above all waiting to tell him what they wanted. In those days, it wasn't easy to disbelieve fully in Santa Claus, because there wasn't much else to believe in. There were many theological arguments over the nature of, the existence of, the affirmation and denial of his existence. However, 10 days before 0 hour, the air pulsing to the strains of "We Three Kings of Orient Are," the store windows garlanded with green and the toy department bristling with sleds, there were few who dared to disbelieve. As each day crept on to the next like some glacier, an arthritic glacier, the atheists among us grew moodier. less and less sure of ourselves, until finally, in each scoffing heart was the floating, drifting, nagging suspicion. Well, you never can tell. It did not pay to take chances as we waited in line for our turn. Behind me, a skinny 7-year-old girl wearing a brown stocking cap and gold-rimmed glasses hit her little brother steadily to keep him in line. She had green teeth. He was wearing an aviator's helmet with the goggles pulled down over his eyes. His galoshes were open and his maroon corduroy knickers were damp. Behind them, a fat boy in a huge sheepskin coat stood numbly, his eyes watering in vague fear, his nose red and running. Ahead of my brother and me, a long, uneven procession of stocking caps, mufflers, mittens, and earmuffs inched painfully forward, while in the hazy distance, in his magic glowing cave, Mr. Klaus sat, each in turn on his broad red knee, and whispered to exultant dream after exultant dream. Closer and closer we crept. My mother and father had stashed us in line and disappeared. We were alone. Nothing stood between us and our confessor, our benefactor, our dispenser of BB guns, and 297 other beseechers at the throne. Over the serpentine line roared a great sea of sound, tinkling bells, recorded carols, the hum and clatter of electric trains, and a record that over and over and over and over again played jingle bells over and over and over. We stood in line, and Santa Claus got closer and closer, his great red form twinkling in the golden light. One moment, my brother and I were safely back in the tricycle and Irish mail department, and the next instant we stood at the foot of Mount Olympus itself. Santa's enormous, gleaming white snowdrift of a throne soared 10 or 15 feet above our heads in a mountain of red and green tinsel, carpeted in flashing Christmas tree bulbs and gleaming ornaments. Each kid in turn was proud of a tiny staircase at the side of the mountain on Santa's left, and as he passed, his last customer onto his right, and down a red chute, back into oblivion for another year. And over it all, the music was deafening. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Sung by an echo-chambered chorus that kept going on and on. High above me in the sparkling gloom, I could see my brother's yellow and brown stocking cap. He's up there on Santa's knee. He squatted briefly. I heard a booming ho, 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 and then a high, thin, familiar trailing wail, one that I'd heard billions of times before, as my brother broke into his primal cry of fear. A claw dug into my elbow, and I was launched upward toward the mountaintop. My kid brother had disappeared. I had long before decided to level with Santa, to really lay it on the line. No Sandy Andy, no kid stuff. I was going to ride the range with Red Ryder. Santa Claus was going to have to get the straight poop. And what's your name, little boy? What's your name, little boy? His booming baritone crashed out over the chipmunks that were singing. He reached down and neatly hooked my sheepskin collar, swooping me upward. And there I sat on the biggest knee in creation, looking down and out over the endless expanse of Toyland and down to the tiny figures. The record ended briefly, and it started up again. Over and over and over they sang. My head wouldn't work. I couldn't think. Was all I could say. That's a fine name, little boy. That's a fine name. Ho, ho, ho. Santa's warm, moist breath poured down over me through some cosmic steam radiator. Santa smoked camels that smelled just like my Uncle Charles. Ho, ho, ho. My mind had gone blank. Frantic, I tried to remember what it was I wanted for Christmas, what I wanted. I was blowing it. I couldn't think. My head was gone. Santa kept going, ho, ho, ho. What would you like? Wouldn't you like a nice football, young man? Ho, ho. My mind groped. Football. Who the hell wants a football? All I could say was, yeah. My God, a football! My mind slammed into gear already. Santa was sliding me off my knee and towards the red chute. I didn't want a football, and I could see behind me already another white-faced kid was bobbing upward. I want a Red Ryder BB gun with a special Red Ryder sight and a compass and a stock and a sundial. I shouted, ho, ho, ho! You'll shoot your eye out, kid! Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Down the chute I went. I've never been struck by a bolt of lightning, but I knew how it must feel. The back of my head was numb. My feet clanked leadenly beneath me. As I returned to earth at the bottom of the chute, another Snow White lady shoved the famous free gift that they were giving out into my mitten. I got my free gift. It was a barely recognizable plastic Kris Kringle stamped with bold red letters. Merry Christmas. Shop at Goldblatt's. Free parking. He spun me back out into Toyland. My kid brother stood under a counter piled high with Raggedy Ann dolls. From nowhere, my mother and father appeared. Did you tell Santa what you wanted? The old man asked. Yeah. Did he ask if you've been a good boy? No. Don't worry, he knows. I'll bet he knows about that basement window you busted. Don't worry, he knows. Maybe that was it. My mind reeled with the realization maybe Santa did know how rotten I'd been, and that the football was only a threat. It was not only a threat, it was a punishment. There had been for generations on Cleveland Street a theory that if you were not a good boy, quote, you would reap your just deserts under the Christmas tree. Oh, God, oh, BB gun, a damn football. The next few days groaned by. Day after day it went past. And then we were going to have our school party. Everybody was to bring paper wreaths, and Crayola Santa Claus were drawn. In the corner of our room, atop a desk decorated with crepe paper rosettes, sat our Christmas grab bag. Every kid in the class had bought a gift for the grab bag. I had bought for Helen Weathers a large, amazingly lifelike, jet black rubber tarantula. I cackled fiendishly as I wrapped it, and even now its beady green eyes glared from somewhere in the depths of the Christmas grab bag. I knew she'd like it. It would be great. Miss Bodkin, after recess, then said to all the kids, now I want all of you boys and girls to write a theme, a rotten theme before Christmas. What is this, a theme before Christmas? I want you to write a theme entitled, What I Want for Christmas. Aha! The clouds lifted. I saw a faint gleam of light at the other end of the black cave of gloom. Ever since my visit to Santa, yes, I could write what I wanted in a theme. I remember to this day how I wrote it. Its cagey, winged phrases and glorious imagery. Quote, what I want for Christmas is a Red Ryder BB gun with a compass in the stock and this thing that tells time. I think everybody should have a Red Ryder BB gun. They are very good at Christmas. I don't think a football is a very good Christmas present. I wrote it on blue-lined paper from my tablet and handed it in. It had to have good margins. Miss Bodkin was very tough on uneven margins. And I waited. The final days before vacation dawned dank and misty, with swirling eddies of ice wind that rattled the porch swing. Warren G. Harding School glowed like a jeweled oasis among the sooty snowbanks. Lights blazed from all the windows, and in every room the Christmas party spirit had kids writhing in their seats. The morning winged by, and after lunch Miss Bodkin announced that the rest of the afternoon would be party time. She handed out our graded themes, folded with our names scrawled on the outside. A big red B in Miss Bodkin's direct hand glowed on my literary effort. I opened it, expecting Miss Bodkin's usual penciled corrections, which ran along the lines of, watch your margins, or check spelling. But this time, a personal note leaped right out of my theme. It flew around the room and fastened itself leech-like on the back of my neck. You'll shoot your eye out. Merry Christmas. Good God. I sat in my seat, shipping water from every seam. Was there no end to this conspiracy of irrational prejudice against Red Ryder and his peacemaker? Nervously, I pulled out of my desk the door-dated back copy of Open Road for Boys, which I'd carried with me everywhere, waking and sleeping for the past few weeks. Red Ryder's handsome orange face with the big balloon coming out of his mouth did not look discouraged or defeated. Red must have been a kid once himself, and they must have told him the same thing when he asked for his first Colt 44 for Christmas. I stuffed my tattered dreams back into my geography book. What are you gonna do? The Glee Club filed in and sang, oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. It was party. Who cared about party? They'd already been squashed. You'll shoot your eyes out, kid. Even from Miss Bodkin. Mechanically, my jaws crunched on the concrete hard rock candy, and I stared hopelessly out of the window, past cutout Santas and garland red and green chains. It was getting dark. It was all over. It was Christmas Eve the next day, and all day long we wrapped presents, but it was not Christmas for me, for I knew it was all over. We wrapped and wrapped and wrapped. Early the next morning, I woke up. It was a gray, grim morning. It was barely light. In fact, it was just after 6 in the morning. I had no real hope. A football, maybe. Maybe a rubber dagger. Maybe a lead Zeppelin wound up and ran around on the floor. Who wants that junk? Who cared about fire trucks, Lincoln logs, erector sets? But who knows? I was the first up. Bright morning, sun gleaming down. I came tearing down, waited for the packages. And there they were, under the tree. Who knows? During the night, a great snow had fallen, covering the gritty remains of past snowfalls. And I was alone. My kid brother was still asleep. My mother and father were asleep in the bedroom. I looked at the packages. And there, under the tree, was a long, thin, flat package marked with my name. And it said, from Santa. I ripped it open. My God, it was a BB gun. A Red Ryder BB gun. There was a package of babies with it. And a rolled up tube of targets. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I put on my bathrobe. I pulled on my corduroy knickers, my galoshes. and I eased myself out into the cold, feeling the gun in my hand. I had a Red Ryder BB gun. The temperature was maybe 20 below zero. I trudged down the steps, barely discernible in the soft fluff, and now I stood in the clean air, ready to consummate my great, long, painful, ecstatic love affair. I had gotten a BB gun! Santa Claus had come through! Brushing the snow off the third step, I propped up a gleaming Red Ryder target, the black rings and blue bullseye standing out starkly against the snowy whiteness. Above the bullseye, Red Ryder watched me, his eyes following my every move. I backed off into the snow a good 20 feet, slammed the stock down onto my left kneecap, holding the barrel with my mittened left hand, flipped the mitten off my right hand, and hooking my fingers in the icy carbine lever, cocked my blue steel buddy for the first time. I heard the BB click into the chamber, the spring inside twanged sharply, and with a clunk she rested, taut, hard, and loaded, in my chapped, bluing hands. For the first time I sighted down over that cold barrel, the heart-shaped rear sight almost brushing my nose and the blade of the front sight wavering back and forth, up and down, and finally coming to rest sharply, cutting the heart and laying dead on the innermost ring. Red Ryder didn't move a muscle, his Stetson flaring out above the target as he waited. Slowly I squeezed the frosty trigger back. For one instant I thought, what? It doesn't work. The BB gun doesn't work. We'll have to send it back. And then, crack! The gun jerked upward, and for a brief instant, everything stood still. The target twitched, a tiny tick, a massive wallop. A gigantic, slashing impact crashed across the left side of my face. My horn-rimmed glasses spun away from my head into the snowbank. For several seconds, I stood stunned, not knowing what had happened. Warm blood trailing down over my cheek and onto the walnut stock of my Red Ryder 200-shot range model BB gun. My God, I was shot in the eye! I lowered the barrel convulsively. The target still stood. Red Ryder was unscratched. A ragged, uncontrolled tidal wave of pain, throbbing and singing, rocked my head. The ricocheting BB had missed my eye by maybe a quarter of an inch, and a long, angry, bloody welt extended from my cheekbone almost to my ear. It was divine retribution. Red Ryder had struck again. Another bad guy, gunned down. It was me. Frantically, I scrambled for my glasses, and then the most catastrophic blow of all, they were pulverized. My glasses were broken. I put the horn rims over on my nose. The front door creaked open. Just then, my mother looked out of the door and said, "Now be careful. Don't shoot your eye. Now be careful of your new BB gun." She hadn't seen yet. My eye was almost shot out. Oh, my God. Then she saw my broken glasses. She says, "How did you break your glasses?" I said, "An icicle fell off the roof. It bounced off the gun, and it bounced up and hit me." I began to cry, faking it at first, but then the shock and the fear took over. It was the real thing. She says, "Now, there, you're all right. It's just a little bump. You're lucky you didn't cut your eye. Those icicles can kill people, you know. You're really lucky. Hold this rag on it and don't wake your brother." I had faked it. I had pulled it off. I had convinced Mother that the icicle had broken my glasses. But I knew I had shot my eye out. I learned something that day. Maybe they know something. They were right. And there I sat in the Horn and Hard Art and sipped my coffee. Yes. I wondered whether Red Ryder was still dispensing retribution and frontier justice of old. Considering the number of kids I see with broken glasses, I suspect he is. Kids, you'll shoot your eye out. And that is the classic story from In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, that we read every winter at the same time, every Christmas Eve. It's entitled Duel in the Snow, or Red Ryder Nails the Cleveland Street Kid. My God, there's something they know. Be careful. Have a good Christmas. I hope it worked out well. And watch your driving, Dad. Maybe they're right when they say don't drink and drive at the same time, in spite of the fact that you drive better after you've drunk, right, kid? You'll shoot your eye out. Look out.
I'm sure many of you recognize that as the story from which A Christmas Story was created. That was Gene Shepard's Red Ryder Nails the Cleveland Street Kid from December 24, 1974. As we now turn the slate toward the mainland United States, we will continue our deliveries and have our featured story right after this message.
Join us at NLWN-TV and the Northern Light Webcasting Network for exciting high school boys basketball.
This is what we came in for!
Our next game will be on January 4th when the Viking boys take on the Turtle Lake Lakers from Colfax High School. Live coverage on the Northern Light Webcasting Network audio service and on NLWN-TV begins with the Viking pregame at 6:55 p.m. That's live Colfax Viking boys basketball on Monday, January 4th on the Northern Light Webcasting Network and NLWN-TV.
Our featured story tonight is from the Campbell Playhouse. The Campbell Playhouse, which ran from 1938 through 1940, was a live CBS radio drama series directed by and starring Orson Welles. Produced by Wells and John Houseman, it was a sponsored continuation of the Mercury Theatre on the Air. The series offered hour-long adaptations of classic plays and novels, as well as adaptations of popular motion pictures. As a direct result of the front-page headlines Orson Welles generated with his 1938 Halloween production, The War of the Worlds, Campbell Soup signed on as sponsor. The Mercury Theatre on the Air made its last broadcast December 4, 1938, and the Campbell Playhouse began December 9, 1938. Tonight's episode is one of the more famous episodes of the Campbell Playhouse. The cast stars Orson Welles as the narrator, Lionel Barrymore as Ebenezer Scrooge, Everett Sloane as Marley's ghost, and Ray Collins. It was adapted from the novella by Charles Dickens. Here is the Campbell Playhouse presentation from December 24, 1939 of A Christmas Carol.
The makers of Campbell's Soups present The Campbell Playhouse. Orson Welles, producer. Good evening, listeners. This is Ernest Chappell speaking. Tonight, Orson Welles and the Campbell Playhouse observe a Campbell tradition of long standing. They bring you Charles Dickens' well-loved tale of Yuletide, A Christmas Carol. 4 years ago, the makers of Campbell Soups went shopping for a Christmas present to give to all their friends. They found it in this story, Charles Dickens' embodiment of the very spirit of Christmas. And they chose well, because throughout the country today, in thousands of homes, it has become an important and beloved Christmas custom to listen to this story. Tonight, this fourth annual presentation is brought to you with a sincere wish that your Christmas may be a happy one, and with the hope that the retelling of A Christmas Carol may help to make it so. And it is more than that, for with this Christmas present to you, Campbell's say thank you for your purchases of Campbell's soup throughout the months gone by. At the Christmas season, this becomes especially manifest. Everywhere, grocers see their shelves of Campbell's soups dwindle more rapidly now than at any other time of the year. It used to be thought that the demand increased in preparation for the Christmas feast, but really it isn't that alone. Women like to have plenty of good soups on hand all through the holidays so that they can serve piping hot, nourishing platefuls at any family mealtime. The youngsters are on the go all day long, making the most of the Christmas vacation, and soup can be ready for them in a jiffy. There's health and happiness in good hot soup. Your grocer has Campbell's soups, 21 delicious kinds, awaiting your selection.
And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And all went to be taxed, every one into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was one of the house of the lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was, that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. Since the days of Caesar Augustus, all people have celebrated by joy the great joy which shall be to all people. For unto us was born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And on this day, at least in the calendar of our year, we affirm the glory of our God by the laughter of our children. Every nation, according to its character and its taste, by some gift of gaiety, has enriched the tradition of this our solemnest festival. And because America is what it is, we are the fortunate heirs of the accumulated customs of almost 2,000 years of keeping Christmas. The best songs that have been sung are sung by us. The best games that have been played, we play, and the best stories ever told are ours to tell. For storytelling has persisted as a Christmas ritual, in spite of the printing press, a ceremony as hilarious and as serious as hanging the stocking, dressing the tree, and kissing under the mistletoe. And because Christmas is first of all for children, Christmas stories are fairy stories first of all. It is mildly surprising that the best of them all, which we're telling again for you tonight, is for everybody, and turns out to be a ghost story. I have endeavored, writes its author on its title page, I have endeavored in this ghostly little story to raise the ghost of an idea, which shall not put my readers out of humor with themselves, with each other, with the season, or with me. May it haunt their houses pleasantly, and no one wish to lay it. It is signed, your faithful friend and servant, Charles Dickens. Marley was dead to begin with. There's no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead. Of course he did. Scrooge and Marley were partners. I don't know how many years. Oh, he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone. Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, secret and self-contained. Once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was a cold, bleak, biting evening, foggy withal, and he could hear the people in the court outside go wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts and stamping their feet upon the pavement to warm them. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open, but he might keep his eyes upon the clerk, Bob Cratchit, who in a cold and dismal little cell beyond worked at his ledgers.
29, 9 and carry 2, 13, 17, 7 and carry 1, and...
Close the door, Cratchit. Shut out that infernal noise.
Yes, Mr. Scrooge.
Confound their impudence. Cratchit.
Yes, Mr. Scrooge.
You ought to stop at Fothergill's on your way home tonight and collect that 17 shillings and sixpence he owed me since Michaelmas, and tell him I shall have the constable over here if he doesn't pay it once.
Well, sir, Mr. Fothergill's wife is...
What do I care about his wife? Well, I want my 17 and 6.
I just thought it being Christmas...
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Bob. Oh, Mr. Fred. Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Uncle.
Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Huh? Bah. Humbug.
Humbug? Christmas a humbug, Uncle? I'm sure you don't mean that.
I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What season have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Well, come then, Uncle. What right have you to be dismal? You're rich enough.
Ah, humbug.
Don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be? I live in such a world of fools. What's Christmas to you but a time for paying bills without money? Merry Christmas. A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of his own holly through his heart.
Uncle.
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way. Let me keep it in mine.
Keep it? But you don't keep it.
Hey, let me leave it alone, then. What do you want, nephew? A Christmas gift, I have no doubt.
I came to wish you a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Ah, Merry Christmas. Much good may Christmas do you. Much good has it ever done you.
There are many things from which I've derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say, Uncle. Christmas among the rest. But I have always thought of Christmas time as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. Therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it.
God bless Christmas. Hurrah!
Let me hear another sound from you out there, Bob Cratchit. You keep your Christmas by losing your situation. That's just you, nephew. I wonder you don't go into Parliament. Talking of nonsense.
Don't be angry, Uncle. I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why can't we be friends?
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry you feel that way. Well, I've tried. Merry Christmas to you, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And Happy New Year, too.
Humbug.
Merry Christmas to you, Bob, and the missus. And to Tiny Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Fred. Same to you, sir. Good day, sir.
Good day, Bob. Merry Christmas, Uncle Ebenezer.
Twaddle nonsense. Flummery. Talking of Christmas. Not a sixpence to jingle against another in his trousers pocket. Are you there, Bob Cratchit?
Yes, sir. Yes,
what
sir.
are you doing in there?
Oh, I was only putting a bit more coal on the fire, Mr. Scrooge, seeing it's so cold in here, sir.
You put that coal back in the scuttle.
Yes, sir.
Fire. Fire indeed. I can tell you, if you use coal at that rate, you and I will be soon parting company, Bob Cratchit. Do you understand that? Many a young fellow like your situation, you know.
I'm sorry, sir. My fingers were getting a little stiff with the cold.
Then put on your mittens.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
There's someone at the door. See who it is.
Yes, sir. Merry Christmas, sir. Oh, Merry Christmas. Yes, sir?
This is the firm of Scrooge and Marley.
Yes, sir.
I should like to see the head of the firm, if I may.
Oh, very good, sir. Step this way, please.
What is it?
A gentleman to see you, Mr. Scrooge.
Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Well, Marley's been dead these 7 years tonight.
Oh.
And I'm Scrooge, though I doubt that'll be any pleasure to you, sir.
I'm sure it will. Now, Mr. Scrooge, at this season of the year, it's only fitting that we who are more fortunate should raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. You may not believe it, sir, but many thousands are now in want of common necessities, and hundreds of thousands are in want of comfort, sir.
Are there no prisons?
There are plenty of prisons, sir.
And the workhouses, they're still in operation, I trust?
I wish I could say they are not, but they are, sir.
The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor, then?
Both very busy, sir.
I'm very glad to hear that. I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. Now, sir, what do you want with me?
Well, Mr. Scrooge, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund for the poor and destitute. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to be anonymous, sir?
I wish to be let alone. I don't make merry at Christmas time, and I can't afford to help make idle people merry. I help to support the establishment and take care of the poor. They cost enough that those who are badly off go there.
Well, many can't go there, sir, and many would rather die.
And let them do so and decrease the surplus population. Besides, how do I know that's true?
You might know it someday, Mr. Scrooge.
Not my business. It's enough for a man to understand his own business and not to interfere with other people. Mine occupies me constantly. Good afternoon, sir. Cratchit, show this gentleman out. Cratchit!
Yes, sir. This way, sir, please. Oh, excuse me, sir. I couldn't help overhearing. I should like to contribute threepence. It's all I can afford. But if there are others in worse situation than I...
You're a generous fellow. I wish I might say the same of your employer.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good day. Merry Christmas.
Good afternoon, sir. And a Merry Christmas. 15, 24, 31, 1 and carry 3. 17, 22, 33, 3 and carry 3. 4, 7, 8.
Cratchit!
12, 15.
Cratchit!
Oh, yes, sir.
Cratchit. Too late to have you go to Fothergill's. He'll be closed up for Christmas like these other fools. We may as well close up this place now.
Yes, sir. It is getting a little dark. Hard to see the figures.
I suppose you want the entire day tomorrow. That's it.
If quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient, and it's not fair. If I was to stop half a crown of your wages for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound.
Well, sir.
And yet you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work.
It's only once a year.
Yeah,
sir.
once a year. Once a year, indeed. A fine excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. I suppose you must have the whole day. I'll see that you're here all the earlier the next morning. Do you understand?
Oh, I will, sir. I will. Well, good night, sir. Good night, good night. Merry Christmas, Mr. Scrooge.
Bah!
The office was closed in a twinkling, and Bob Cratchit, with the long ends of his white comforter dangling below his waist, for he boasted no greatcoat, went down a slide-on Cornhill 20 times in honor of its being Christmas Eve, and then ran home to Camden Town as hard as he could pelt to play with his family at Blind Man's Buff. Scrooge, on the other hand, took his melancholy dinner in his usual melancholy tavern, and having read all the newspapers and spent the rest of the evening with his banker's book, went home to his dismal house. The yard was so dark that even Scrooge, who knew its every stone, had to grope with his hands. The fog and frost hung about the black old gateway of the house. Darkness is cheap, and Scrooge liked it. Before he shut his heavy door, he walked through his rooms to see that all was right. Sitting room, bedroom, lumber room, all as they should be. Nobody under the table, nobody under the sofa. Small fire in the grate of his bedroom, spoon and basin ready, and a little saucepan of gruel upon the hob. Nobody under the bed, nobody in the closet. Closed his door and locked himself in. Double locked himself in. Then took off his cravat, put on his dressing gown and slippers and his nightcap, and sat down before the fire to take his gruel. It was a very low fire indeed, nothing on such a bitter night, not even enough to kindle a glow of light in the cheerless room. Scrooge stretched his numb fingers over the wretched fire. Then he saw something that made him draw them back. Slowly the meager embers dissolved before his astonished eyes, dissolved into a face, a ghostly face, but one that Scrooge recognized as the face of Marley. Marley, his partner, dead these 7 years. It was not angry or ferocious, but looked at Scrooge as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles turned up on its ghostly forehead. The hairs were curiously stirred, like flames blown from a chimney draft. And through the death-cold eyes, Scrooge saw the buttons on the back of his coat. Humbug. 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 Scrooge got up and walked away from the fire. As he turned, his glance happened to rest upon a bell, a disused bell that hung in the corner of the room. It was with great astonishment and with a strange, inexplicable dread that as he looked, he saw this bell begin to swing. Slowly at first. The same face he had seen in the fire, Marley's face. And Marley's body coming straight at him through the door. A body pale as the bluish smoke that comes out of a chimney on a cold day. A body so transparent that Scrooge, looking through his waistcoat,
could see his watch in his waistcoat pocket. The chain he drew was clasped about his middle. It was long and wound about him like a tail, and it was made of cash boxes, keys, padlocks, and heavy purses wrought in steel. Even now, Scrooge would not believe his eyes. The ghost advanced towards him.
Ebenezer Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge.
Marley, what do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then? You're particular for a ghost.
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Jacob Marley, but you're dead. You died 7 years ago this very night.
You do not believe in me, then?
I do not.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheats. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There may be more gravy than grave about you, whatever you are. Humbug, I tell you. Humbug.
At this, the spirit, taking the bandage off from round its head, as if it were too warm to wear indoors, its lower jaw dropped upon its breast.
Man of the worldly mind, do you believe in me now?
I do, Jacob, I do. Why do you walk the earth? Why do you come to me, Jacob?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men and travel far and wide to witness what it cannot share but might have shared on earth and turn to happiness.
Tell me, Jacob, well, what is that chain you wear around you?
I wear the chain I forged in life. Cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, purses. I made it link by my own free will. Is its pattern strange to you, Ebenezer? Yours was as heavy and as long as this 7 years ago. And you've labored on it since, Ebenezer.
Jacob, old Jacob Marley, tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give, Ebenezer. No rest, no peace, incessant torture of remorse.
But you were always a good man of business, Jacob.
Business? Mankind was my business. Charity, mercy, benevolence, they were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business.
Jacob.
Hear me, Ebenezer Scrooge. My time is nearly gone.
I will, Jacob, but don't be hard on me. Speak to me, Jacob, but please don't be flowery.
I'm here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate.
You were always a good friend to me, Jacob, thank you. And go on, Jacob.
Listen to me, Ebenezer. You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, Ebenezer Scrooge, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first tomorrow when the bell tolls 1. Expect the second on the next night at the same hour. The third upon the next night. Look to see me no more. And look that for your own sake you remember what has passed between us.
Marley! Jacob Marley!
Scrooge awoke. He was lying on his bed fully dressed, when suddenly the curtains of his bed were drawn aside, and Scrooge found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor who drew them, as close to it as I am now to you, and I am standing in the spirit at your elbow. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white as if with age. And yet the face had not a wrinkle in it, and the tenderest bloom was on the skin. The arms were long and muscular, the hands the same, as if its hold were of uncommon strength. Its dress was of the purest white, trimmed with summer flowers. It held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand. But the strangest thing about it was that from the crown of its head there sprang a clear jet of light, by which all this was visible, and which was doubtless the occasion of its using in its duller moments a great extinguisher for a cap, which it now held under its arm.
Ebenezer Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
What business brings you here? What do you want of me?
Your welfare. Ebenezer Scrooge, rise and walk with me.
No, not the window. I'm mortal. I'll fall down.
There but a touch of my hand, there upon your heart, and you shall be upheld in more than this. Come, follow me. Let us go.
They stood upon an open country road, with fields on either hand. The city had entirely vanished. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground. They walked along the road. Scrooge began to recognize every gate, every post, every tree, until a little market town appeared in the distance with its bridge, its church, and winding river. Some shaggy ponies now were seen trotting towards them with boys upon their backs or in sleighs. And all these boys were in great spirits and showed to each other that they were happy, shouting through the broad fields, until they were so full of music that the crisp air laughed to hear it. And there stood old Scrooge, in his dressing gown and slippers and nightcap on the hill, and beside him the spirit of Christmas past. And now the spirit spoke again.
Not all the boys and girls were singing on that Christmas day, were they, Ebenezer Scrooge? See the bleak building over there?
That building? I was a boy there. Yeah, I went to school in that place.
You recollect the way?
I could walk it blindfold.
Strange you have forgotten it for so many years. Come, let us go closer. Look through the window into this cold, barren room. What do you see, Ebenezer Scrooge?
I see a boy.
A solitary child, neglected by his friends, sitting alone, a book open before him.
Yes, I see. I know that boy. I was lonely. Poor boy.
Your lip is trembling, Scrooge. And what's that on your cheek?
It's nothing. I wish I was too late now.
What is the matter?
Nothing. There were some boys singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I should like to have given them something, that's all.
That is all? Come, Ebenezer Scrooge. Let us see another Christmas. Ebenezer.
Know it? This is the counting house where I was apprenticed.
Listen.
Come now. Choose your partner. Penny, it's my old master, bless his heart. My old master alive again. And we, his clerks, so full of joy on Christmas Eve.
Hold hands, your partner. Bow and touch. Look, Scrooge. Look at that carefree young man with the light heart and the gay smile. Do you recognize him, Ebenezer? What is the matter, Ebenezer?
Nothing particular.
Something, I think.
No. Only I should like to be able to say a word or two. To my clerk, Bob Cratchit. That's all.
My time grows short, and we have yet another journey to make.
Where now?
Come.
again, Scrooge saw himself in a room that was vaguely familiar. He was an older man, a man in the prime of his life. And he was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl. There were tears in her eyes.
Little Ebenezer, with you. Very little, I know. Another idol has displaced me. And if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve.
What idol has displaced you?
A golden one.
Well, listen to me. There's nothing the world so hard on as poverty, and yet nothing it pretends to condemn so much as the pursuit of wealth.
The world again. You fear the world too much, Ebenezer.
Belle, have I changed toward you?
When we were engaged, we were both poor.
Was it better then? No, was it better to be poor?
Better at least to be happy. You're changed. You were another man then.
I was a boy. Do you blame me because I've grown wiser? Have I ever tried to break our engagement?
In words, no. Never.
In what then?
In a changed nature. In an altered spirit. In everything that made my love of any value in your sight. So, I release you from your promise.
Bill, I love you still.
Oh, at first it may cause you pain to lose me. A very brief pain. But soon it will be dim, like a half-remembered dream. An unprofitable dream. And you will be glad to be awake from such a dream. May you be happy in the life you have chosen, Ebenezer. For the love of him you once were.
Spirit, it is enough. Show me no more.
These were shadows of the things that have been. That they are what they are. Do not blame
no
me.
No more.
One shadow more. Come.
The relentless ghost pinioned him in both his arms and forced him to observe what happened next. They were in a room, not very large or handsome, but full of comfort. All around them were the voices of children talking and laughing. And before the winter fire sat a beautiful young girl, so like the last that Scrooge believed it was the same, until he saw her, the girl he had been betrothed to, now a handsome middle-aged woman sitting with her husband at their own fireside.
Do you see this man, Ebenezer Scrooge? This man might have been you. And that girl might have been your daughter, Ebenezer Scrooge. She might have called you father. She might have been a springtime in the haggard winter of your life.
Spirit, let me go. Show me no more.
Listen now while they speak, Ebenezer.
Oh, I saw an old friend of yours today.
Who was it?
Yes.
How can I? Oh, I know. Mr. Scrooge.
Mr. Scrooge it was. I passed his office window. It wasn't shuttered, and there was a candle inside, so I couldn't help seeing him. His partner lies at the point of death, I hear. And there Scrooge sat, all alone. Quite alone in the world, I do believe.
Spirit, reward me. Haunt me no more. Leave me. Take me back. Take me back.
In his anguish, Scrooge began to struggle with the ghost of Christmas past. The lights in the crown of its head burned high and bright. Scrooge, in a last desperate effort, tore the extinguisher cap from its head, and by a sudden action, pressed it down upon its head. And Scrooge was conscious of being exhausted and overcome by irresistible drowsiness. And further, of being in his own bedroom. He gave the cap a parting squeeze, in which his hand relaxed and had barely time to reel to bed before he sank into a heavy sleep. The stroke of one awakened him and sat him bolt upright in his bed.
We pause now for station identification. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. You are listening to the 4th annual presentation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, brought to you by the makers of Campbell's Soups. We return you now to the Campbell Playhouse and Orson Welles.
On the stroke of 1, Scrooge had awakened suddenly, and it sat him bolt upright in his own bed. He remembered the words of Marley's ghost, and wondered from which direction the second specter would appear. He drew aside the curtains and established a sharp lookout all around the bed. At that moment, nothing between a baby and a rhinoceros would have astonished him very much. Now, being prepared for almost anything, he was not by any means prepared for nothing, and consequently, when no shape appeared, he was taken with a violent fit of trembling. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. A quarter of an hour went by, yet nothing came. And all this time he sat upon the bed with his nightcap upon his head, the very core and center of a blaze of ruddy light which streamed upon it. Being only light, this was more alarming than a dozen ghosts. As he was powerless to make out what it meant, he began to think that the source of this ghostly light might be in the adjoining room, from whence, on further tracing, it seemed to shine. He got up softly and shuffled in his slippers to the door. It was his own sitting room, there was no doubt about that. But it had undergone a surprising transformation. The walls and ceiling were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove, from every part of which bright gleaming berries glistened, and such a mighty blaze went roaring up the chimney as had never been known in Scrooge's time or for many and many a winter season gone. Heaped upon the floor to form a kind of throne were turkeys, geese, game, poultry, great joints of meat, sucking pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red-hot chestnuts, and seething bowls of punch that made the chamber dim with their delicious steam. And in easy state upon this couch, there sat a jolly giant, glorious to see, who bore a glowing torch in shape not unlike Plenty's horn, and held it up high up to shed its light on Scrooge as he came peeping round the door.
Come in, Ebenezer Scrooge. You know me better, man.
Yeah?
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You've never seen the like of me before.
Spirit, conduct me where you will. I went forth last time on compulsion, and learned a lesson which is working now. If tonight you have anything to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe, Ebenezer Scrooge. Touch my robe.
The room vanished, so did the fire. The ruddy glow, the hour of night, vanished. Sunlight brushed them as they streamed through the clear morning air. Second spectre flew at a more leisurely speed, and Scrooge had time to observe people below him shoveling snow on the city roofs, calling out to one another from the parapets, and now and then pelting each other with snowballs. In the streets below them, the poulterers' shops were still half open, and the fruiterers were radiant in their holiday glory. Scrooge and his ghostly guide circled the tall spires as the steeples called good people all to church or chapel. And there below them lay Camden Town with its squalid streets of ugly frame houses. Of all these dwellings, the ghosts selected the humblest for their visit. Scrooge, by now past all surprise, recognized Bob Cratchit's wife,
dressed in a twice-turned gown but brave in ribbons, busily laying the table. Assisting her was Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, also brave in ribbons, while Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes. And now two smaller Cratchits, boy and girl, came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelled a goose and known it for their own, and now basking in luxurious thoughts of sage and onions. And three more young Cratchits danced about the table. Then once more the door opened.
Martha, we've got a goose. Wait till you see it, Martha.
Oh, quiet, children, quiet. Why, bless your heart alive, Martha, my dear. How late you are. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas, Mother. Merry Christmas. How late you are, Martha.
Oh, we had a deal of work to finish up last night, and we had to clear away this morning.
Well, never mind, so long as you're here now. Sit you down before the fire and have a warm. Lord bless you.
But where's Father?
He's been to church with Tiny Tim. They'll be along directly.
How is Tiny Tim, Mother? Any better at all?
Sometimes I think he is, and sometimes I think, oh, dear God, if anything should happen to Tiny Tim. If Tiny Tim should die.
Mother, you mustn't even think of such a thing.
Here they come!
Merry Christmas, Father, and Tim.
Merry Christmas, Martha.
And there was Bob Cratchit, with at least 3 feet of comforter, exclusive of the fringe, hanging down before him in his threadbare clothes, darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Poor Tiny Tim. He carried a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron frame.
How did little Tim behave in church, Bob?
Oh, I like church, Mother. Oh, they sang the nicest hymns, and the people were so kind to me. It was such fun riding home on Daddy's shoulder.
He behaved as good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful sitting by himself so much and thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me coming home that he hoped people saw him in church because he was lame, and it might be pleasant for them to remember on Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see.
Tim, you darling.
Mother, the goose is ready. Mother, I'm hungry.
Oh, yes, children, all ready. Come, take your places and wait your turn. There's plenty of stuffing and dressing and plum pudding for all of you. Now, Martha, you take care of Tiny Tim. That's right. And see that he eats plenty. He must get strong and well.
Now shall we say grace?
Yes, Bob.
Our Father who art in heaven, we thank thee for the daily bread which in thy mercy thou dost give to us. Bless us this Christmas day, keep us all together, so that for many years to come we may unite here to do thy will and praise thy name. Amen.
Amen.
And now, my dears, with such a dinner, a toast. A Merry Christmas to us all, and God bless us.
God bless us. God bless us, everyone.
And now to Mr. Scrooge. I'll give you a toast to Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. Who pays you all 15 shillings a week? I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast on, and I hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children, Christmas Day.
Well, it should be Christmas Day, I'm sure, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Bob. Nobody knows it better than you, poor fellow.
My dear, Christmas Day.
Well, I'll drink his health for your sake and the day's, not for his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
And I say God bless him too, Mother. And everyone.
There was nothing of high mark in all this. They were not a handsome family, these Cratchits. They were not well-dressed. Their shoes were far from being waterproof. Their clothes were scanty and had known, very likely, the inside of a pawnbroker's. But they were happy, grateful, pleased with one another, and contented with the time. And when at last they faded, Scrooge had his eye upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim, until the last.
Spirit! Spirit! Tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved.
No, kind Spirit. Say he will be spared. Say he will live.
If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
Many calls Scrooge made that night with the ghost of Christmas present. Now he stood upon a bleak and desert moor where monstrous masses of rude stone were cast about as though it were the burial place of giants. Down in the west, the setting sun had left a streak of fiery red which glared upon the desolation for an instant like a sullen eye, then was lost in the thick gloom of darkest night. A light shone from the window of a hut. Passing through the wall of mud and stone, they found a cheerful company assembled around a glowing fire. An old man and woman with their children and their children's children, all decked out gaily in their holiday attire.
In this place, Ebenezer Scrooge, the miners live who labor in the bowels of the earth. Still, they know me. Do you hear?
The spirit did not tarry here, but bade Scrooge hold his robe. And passing on above the moor, they sped on. Whither? Not to see. To see. To Scrooge's horror, looking back, he saw the last of the land. Below him were the waves breaking upon a frightful range of rocks. But built upon a dismal reef of sunken stones, some league or so from shore, there stood a solitary lighthouse. Great heaps of seaweed clung to its base, and storm birds, born of the wind, rose and fell about it like the waves they skimmed. Again the ghosts sped on above the dark and heaving sea, on and on until they lighted on a ship. They stood beside the helmsman at the wheel, the lookout in the bow, the men who had the watch, dark, ghostly figures in their several stations. Much they saw, and far they went, and many places they visited, but always with a happy end. The spirits stood beside sick beds, and they were cheerful. On foreign lands, and they were close at home. By poverty, and it was rich. In almshouse, hospital, and jail, where vain man in his little brief authority had not made fast the door and barred the spirit out, he left his blessing. It was a long night, if it were only a night. And it was strange, too, that while Scrooge remained unaltered, in his outward form, the ghost grew older, clearly older.
My life upon this globe is very brief, Ebenezer. It ends tonight.
Tonight?
Tonight at midnight. Hark, the hour is come.
Not yet. There are still more things I wish to learn.
These you will learn from still another spirit. Still another spirit, Ebenezer.
Scrooge looked about him for the ghost. It had vanished. And he found himself once more in his bed, in his dressing gown and his nightcap on his head. He heard the clock strike. And then he remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting up his eyes, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming toward him like a mist along the ground. The spirit slowly, gravely, silently approached. In the very air through which it moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery.
I am the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Ebenezer Scrooge, I am about to show you the shadows of the things that have not happened, but will happen in the time before us.
Ghost of the future! I fear you more than any specter I've seen. Lead on! Lead on! The night is waning fast, and it is precious time.
Scrooge followed in the shadow of its dress, which bore him up, he thought, and carried him along. And suddenly, they were in a room which Scrooge seemed to remember having seen before, where a woman and a child were.
Oh, my son, my little son, Tiny Tim. I loved him so.
Mother, dear, you mustn't. It's almost time for Father to be home. Don't let him see you crying.
Yes, Mother. He's late tonight. He walks slower than he used to. And yet, I've known him to walk very fast indeed, with Tiny Tim on his shoulder.
So have I, Mother.
But he was light to carry, and his father loved him so that it was no trouble. No trouble at all. Bob.
Good evening, my dear.
You're late, Bob.
I'm sorry, my dear. I went to the churchyard today. I wish you could have gone with me. It would have done your heart good to see how sweet and green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised Tiny Tim we'd walk there on a Sunday.
Oh, Bob. Bob.
It's God's will, my dear.
Oh, my son, my little son. Tiny Tim. I loved him so.
Scrooge tried to break through the shade that held him to talk with Bob Cratchit, to speak some word of comfort, but the sleeve of the ghost of Christmas yet to come passed in front of him and shut the family from his view. And now they were in an obscure part of the town where Scrooge had never been before. The ways were foul and narrow, the shops and houses wretched, the people drunken, slipshod, ugly. The whole quarter reeked with crime, with filth and misery. Deep in this den of infamous resort, there was a low-browed, beetling pawn shop where iron, old rags, and bottles were bought. And there was an old charwoman standing at the counter.
Undo my bundle, Joe.
I hope Scrooge didn't die of nothing catching, eh?
Don't be afraid. I ain't so fond of his company that I'd take a chance at that. You may look through that shirt till your eyes ache, and you won't find a hole in it. The best he had, and a fine one, too. He'd have wasted it if it hadn't been for me.
What you call a wasting of it, Mrs. Dilber?
Putting it on him to be buried in. Somebody was fool enough to do it, but I took it off him again. If calico ain't good enough for such a purpose, it ain't good enough for anything. It can't look uglier than he did in that one, the old horror. And here's his bed curtains. Small use he'll have for him where he's going.
That's the truest word, you ever spoke, Mrs. Dilber.
So this is the end of him, you see. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive to profit us when he was dead.
The phantom spread its dark robe before him for a moment like a wing, and withdrawing it revealed another place, a churchyard walled in by houses, overrun by grass and weeds, choked up with too much burying, fat with repleted appetite. A worthy place. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down toward it, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Spirit, am I the man who lay dead upon that bed?
The spirit pointed from the grave to him and back again, and the upper portion of its deep black garment was contracted for an instant in its folds, as if it had inclined its head.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
And then Scrooge saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrank, collapsed, and dwindled into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own, the bed was his own, the room was his own, best and happiest of all,
The time before him was his own to make amends in. Running to the window, he opened it. He put out his head. No fog, no mist. Clear, bright, jovial, stirring cold. Cold, piping for the blood to dance in. Golden sunlight, heavenly air. Sweet, fresh air, merry bells. Oh, glorious, glorious. Oi! Oi! What's the day?
Hey, what's that, sir?
What day is it, my fine fella?
Today? Why, it's Christmas Day.
Christmas Day? Christmas Day! That I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. All in one night. I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all the world.
Scrooge was early at his office. He went early for a reason. He could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late. That was the thing he'd set his heart upon, and he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15, no Bob. Scrooge sat with his door wide open that he might see him come in. At last he came. His hat was off before he opened the door, his comforter, too. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock.
8 and 7 and 15, carry the 1, 24, carry the 2, 31 and 5, 36, 4 and 7.
Hello? You, Cratchit.
Yes, sir.
Cratchit? Step this way, Cratchit,
Yes,
please.
Yes, sir.
Cratchit. What do you mean by coming in at this time of day?
I'm very sorry, sir. I am behind my time.
Here you are. Yes, I think you are.
It's only once a year, Mr. Scrooge. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir.
And I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand this sort of thing any longer. Therefore, Bob Cratchit, I'm about to raise your salary.
Are you quite yourself, sir?
No, thank heaven, I'm not quite myself. Merry Christmas, Bob. Merry Christmas, my good fella. A Merry Christmas, and I've given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary, and we'll see what we can do for Tiny Tim and the rest of your family. We'll discuss it this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop, Bob. Make up the fires, make 'em up, and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I. Bob Cratchit.
And Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all and infinitely more, and to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived upon the total abstinence principle ever afterwards. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that be truly said of us and of all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone.
Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah, sing glory to the Lord. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah, sing glory to the Lord. Sing hallelujah, sing hallelujah, sing glory to the Lord.
You have just heard the 4th annual presentation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, offered for your enjoyment by the makers of Campbell's Soups. And here is Orson Welles.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first year I've shared in this happy tradition of the Campbell Playhouse, and I'm only sorry that very, very grand actor, Lionel Barrymore, was not able to come to New York this Christmas to be part of our broadcast tonight. We're depending upon him to be with us next year, as he's been in the past, and I'm looking forward to it. And now, a word about next week's show. Next Friday night, I shall have the great pleasure of welcoming as our guest star one of the most elusive stars in motion pictures, Miss Katharine Hepburn. Miss Hepburn making her first radio appearance in more than 4 years. joins me in a dramatization of Ernest Hemingway's greatest novel, Farewell to Arms. Ladies and gentlemen, the night before Christmas, and all through the Campbell Playhouse, not a creature is stirring that doesn't wish you a Merry Christmas. This goes for all of us, for my sponsor, for myself, for all of us, from Johnny Dietz, who runs the machinery in the control room, to Miss Hess, who types the Campbell Playhouse scripts. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas from all of us to all of you. Merry Christmas. Benny Herman and his band of merry melodians wish you a Merry Christmas. Ora Nichols and her demon crew of sound technicians wish you a Merry Christmas. Orson Welles and his considerable aggregation of dramatic talent, including Hiram Sherman, who played Bob Cratchit, Ray Collins, who was the man who asked for alms, Frank Reddick, who was the ghost of Christmas yet to come, Eustace Wyatt, who was the ghost of Christmas present, Arthur Anderson, who was the ghost of Christmas past, Al Shirley, who was Marley's ghost, Alice Frost, who was the charwoman, Brenda Forbes, who was Mrs. Cratchit, Joseph Cotton, who was Nephew Fred, Anna Stafford, who was Belle, Kingsley Colton, who was Tiny Tim, and George Spelman, who was Mr. Peswick, all wish you a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas! And finally, as Tiny Tim says,
God bless us, everyone.
Don't fail to listen in next Friday night when Orson Welles brings to the Campbell Playhouse Miss Katharine Hepburn in his own dramatization of Ernest Hemingway's great novel, A Farewell to Arms. This is Ernest Chappell wishing you all a very Merry Christmas on behalf of the makers of Campbell's Soups. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
From December 24th, 1939, that's the Campbell Playhouse's presentation of A Christmas Carol. Now that Santa and his elf Russell are in North America, it's time to put an end to tonight's holiday gift. You know, since they're in North America, it won't be long until they're in your area, so it might be a good idea to head off to bed so they don't pass you by. Now, all of us who pitched in this past year at the Northern Light Webcasting Network and NLWN-TV would like to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. That would include Dan Petschow, Ann Monroe, Cassie Nelson, Chris Olson, Jeff Gust, Zoe Pitts, Ethan Bartels, Dave Hansen, Ainsley Olson, and yours truly, Rick Olson. So from all of us to all of you, once again, have a very Merry Christmas, and we can't wait to bring you more exciting events in 2022.